Hello, friends. Welcome to Mike Inspires Me, the show about wellness, amazing people, and information to inspire you to take charge of your life and your health. In this podcast, I chat with my friend Blake Miles, an abundance coach who teaches people to bring themselves from where they are to where they want to be and develop a strong mindset. Hear Blake's inspiring story of his health journey, motivated by the news of his daughter's pregnancy. At the time, he was 44 years old and weighed over 300 pounds. Blake's positive mindset and an outlook on life are a true inspiration. Well, here we are. Well, hey there, Blake Miles. Always smiles. And look at him here. He is smiling. Well, you guys can't see him unless you're seeing a video, which we're not sure we're going to have, but glad to have you on. This is so exciting, Blake.
It is. It's amazing. I feel like this is the kind of the culmination, not the final, but one of the first culminations of our rather unique relationship. I mean, we are totally digital friends, you know, in this amazing technological world. We are 100% digital friends. We have yet to meet in the flesh. We're working on it. We're going to do it. We're going to take the hike of all hikes together.
And I was telling Terry, we got to get those passports because now we got to get passports. So Blake, this is really exciting. You're my first official international guest on the show.
All right. Well, then I guess I'm obliged to say, hello, eh?
It's so crazy. Yeah, I think about that. It's funny, like I think day to day we don't think about that, but yeah, I mean, we're crossing all kinds of boundaries in the world, and it's cool that we're able to connect like this. And you're working with people all over the world, and yeah, I think that's just awesome that now that the world has gotten smaller in some ways because we can do this.
Well, yeah, and like you say, we do take it for granted day to day that we're friends and our friendship has grown, and we immediately had a great rapport, and I think we quickly figured out we have a lot of the same ideals and values. But then every once in a while, you take a step back and go, man, we are hundreds of miles apart, and yet we're maintaining. If you were a girl, this wouldn't be working, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you'd be like, when are coming now? It's funny. I was listening to a podcast show of Dr. David Friedman, and he was talking to a woman about her book about energies, and they were talking about she was talking about energies from food, but the other thing they were talking about is energies from people. And it's interesting. You're definitely one of those people. I think there's this energy you just suddenly pick up on. You probably hear from people too. They just, boom, I like it. You just don't know what it is, but you like them. You know how like dogs pick up on that about people? They're like, they either like a person or they don't.
Yeah.
And you're one of those guys I've seen. It's like, how could you just not love Blake?
Yeah, there's a few. There's some that could give you I think some people don't like what I preach, and that's going to happen to everybody. Haters going to hate, and I welcome it. I welcome. Sometimes people keep me honest by pointing out, I don't agree with this, Blake, or I don't agree with that, or whatever. Yeah, I don't know too many people that have a problem with me as a person. So
that's good.
I am pleased.
Yeah, and that's good because obviously your business is working with people, and that's an important thing because your relationship with them is going to be the way you're going to be able to influence them, and that's a tough job. You and I were just talking about that prior we came on here, and it's a challenge to get people. I mean, people have to be ready before they can just come in, because you don't want to spend a lot of time convincing, but I imagine sometimes you are trying to convince people that they got to change habits or they got to do things that they don't want to do.
Well, I think one of the biggest things, and I always say this to people, you want to talk about people who don't agree with me. Here's one of the ones that people debate me on all the time. Motivation, inspiration, and education. Three of the biggest, most powerful tools for change, transformation, everything in our life. Those are the three we got to master. And I have always said, and you'll never convince me otherwise, they are not external forces. We can speak in a motivational way. We can offer motivational, but we can't motivate someone.
No.
The engine's in their vehicle. If they don't turn it over, it's not going to happen. We can speak in inspirational tunes. We can post memes till the cows come home.
Right.
If inspiration is within you, it's got to be in that. You have to be, you can't be inspired. You have to become inspired.
That's right.
So it's within you. And even education, no matter how great a teacher you are, you can't force someone to learn any more than you can force them to eat or whatever. You can't create that in somebody. If they're not able to learn or they're not eager to learn, it's not going to happen. They can't be educated. Teaching doesn't create education. Learning creates being educated. So that's why I always argue those three important things, unfortunately, are beyond our control as a second party. We can only try to create the momentum that gets people to want to be inspired, be motivated, be educated, and take the next action steps. So that's the toughest part of coaching, in my opinion.
Yeah, I could just imagine. And it's hard. I have lots of friends who do the same thing. And it's, you sometimes you feel personally let down when you can't get to somebody, you can't reach somebody, because it's like, oh, I failed. And, how do you deal with that? I mean, it's got to be tough sometimes when you get that client or that person where you feel like, I can't reach them.
I mean, I never fail, but
I love it.
No, I fail forward. I'll say I always fail forward.
Right.
But what I find is the trouble that I have dealing with it is never, a sense of failure, a sense of loss in my part. Yep. It's that I have an empathetic nature as a person. Obviously, that's why I do what I do. Exactly. I feel other people's pain. Right. And by relieving it for them, I relieve it for myself a little bit, so I'm left with a void. That's really that's the struggle to deal with, is I'm left with a void when someone, can't move on to the next step and reach that level of fulfillment that they want to, when they stall in that transition. But, I said it as a joke, but in a sense, I don't fail, because failure is when you stop trying. Yep. And I often refuse to stop trying. And I can tell you that one of the greatest motivators I have, one of the greatest energies I have that triggers the motivation, gets people to go, is that my tenacity alone, it just eventually makes them say, well, if Blake can stay committed to this long with me, then I can do it too. I literally have guilted some clients into getting into action. Wow. And I have to admit, one or two have actually just taken action because they've literally said, Blake, if it'll get rid of you, if it'll get you off my back.
Hey, whatever it takes.
Exactly. And, they may resent you today, but they'll love you tomorrow. They'll love you for it tomorrow. I think coaching is a little like parenting. Yes, you want to have a loving and friendly, enjoyable relationship, but at the end of the day, your job is not to be their pal. Your job is to bring them from where they are now to where they want to be. And that might take a little pain. There might be a little resentment. There might be anger and touch of hatred even. But in the end, when the dust clears, they will thank you for it. They will appreciate it. You will have done what they asked you to. They didn't come in and say, hey, can you be my friend and blow sunshine up my skirt? They said, can you come in here and change my life? Yep. They know from the onset that might be a little pain. It might be a little pain for them. It might be a little pain for you too. Yeah. You can't always be their pal. They've got lots of friends. They don't need a friend. They need a mentor.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. And you're right, because I think it's like a lot. I liken the struggles I've had in my life, sort of like alcohol addiction or drug addiction, with my eating disorder. And there is pain in trying to overcome those things, because I can't just eat the way I used to eat. I can't just do the habits, and I had to replace that. And it does take a lot of introspection and soul searching, and sitting and watching Terry eat cookies while I grumble to myself. And that's just the reality of it. So that's a good point. I mean, and I'm sure you're upfront with your clients, that you got to be that way. You got to kind of be open to this sort of tough transition.
Yes.
Challenging.
Yeah. One thing I love to do is I'll take out, waivers and releases and all that nonsense you got to get out of the way. All those things that basically say, here's what you agree to in case we're not successful in what we do. And what I love to do is I will, I'll do up those forms and then I will do a copy. I'll just quickly, leave the room, make a photocopy, put the original side, come back in with the copy. And before they have time to see that it's a copy, I rip it up. I tear it up in front of them. And I say, see, here's the release form you just, in case we don't succeed, because you know what? We're going to succeed. Failure's not an option. And it's fun. They don't fall for it. They know what I did, but they love the environment, the atmosphere that sets right off the bat. We got this defiant, rebellious, kick-ass attitude.
Right.
We are not going to fail. We're going to do this no matter what it takes. So let's just rip this nonsense up. And
that's so awesome, because it really, you're right from the onset, you're adding humor, you're adding, lightheartedness to this whole thing. It's a serious thing. It's a serious transition, but at the same time, you got to go at it and have some fun. And it sounds like you're a really fun coach. So that's really cool. I like that.
It is important, because one of the main reasons people avoid coaching is because they think they're about to get beaten up.
Yeah,
some
Nazi here.
That's right. When they hear accountability, they freak out. They're terrified of that word, accountability. I think we should change the word. I think that's one of those words we need to find a new semantic, to use, because it's a scary word. We've attached a negativity to it.
Yeah,
and of course it isn't really, but we have to find some word, some attitude, something that tells people, look, just because yes, you're going to be held accountable for your actions, it doesn't, you're not being punished. I mean, the only reason I'm doing anything in the first place is because you asked me to, and because I'm helping you to make sure you stay accountable to yourself.
Right.
You're not accountable to me. I'm holding you accountable to you. And, but I find a little bit of humor is a wonderful way to just smooth it over. It's just tough to let people know that before they're a client, so that they say, hey, you're in a safe place here.
Right.
And even that's a dangerous thing to say. When you say you're in a safe place, people go, oh, so it's not a safe place, but you're making it safe. They're automatically scared of that warning, that safe place thing right off the bat. They go, where am I going to be that it has to be a safe place? So it's hard to make coaching light and fun at the onset. Once you're in it, it's great. And I get a lot of great positive feedback about how painless and comfortable and fun it is, and how people are learning without knowing they're learning. And, we get to the end of a coaching call and somebody looks down and says, I've written down notes that are going to change my life tomorrow morning. And I didn't even think of it because we were having so much fun while we were chatting about things. And that's wonderful. But it's very hard to portray that out there in an advertisement or a promotion or something like that. So it's why I try to get on social media and do a lot of video, promoting what I do and just talking about, just giving people tips and ideas and thoughts right there. I do a little bit of mini coaching, just, free out there on social media, because people are going to really get a taste of not only what I do, but how I do it and how much potential fun we could have.
Exactly. Well, and I think what you brought up a great point too, when we talked about the safe place. It's funny, in Toastmasters, we talk about the same thing, because you imagine getting up in front of a group of people and just suddenly public speaking when you've never done it before, it's kind of scary. And we talk about that being a safe place. In your case, you're talking about some things where people could be really emotional. I mean, eating problems and other issues that people are dealing with bring up all kinds of problems, but you're putting in a way to say, hey, you know what? It's going to be tough, but we're going to have some fun with it. And that kind of lessens that anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, humor smooths almost anything over. And I think one of the best therapies, one of the best mindset shifts, one of the best things you can give to somebody, the first gift you can give somebody that they can take on painlessly before you're asking them to confront addictions and deal with shortfalls or investigate the emotions that are attached to obesity, addiction, all that. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Right. It's hard. This is tough stuff. And to just open the door and go, hi, I'm Blake. Let's explore your deepest, darkest moment.
Exactly.
I think the gift you give to people is, hey, I got an idea. Let's take your deepest, darkest moments and slap them in the face and laugh at them a little bit. Let's belittle them. Let's knock them down. Let's put them down to size so they stop being more powerful than you.
Yep, the control. Yeah, you are in control. And that's an interesting thing I find with a lot of people who struggle with their health, is that they don't feel that they have the control. Granted, I mean, you hear the same, well, they either this genetics, or I have this chronic condition, or whatever, whatever, name it, A, B, C, and why, or my knees. And it's like, well, okay, that's fine. Those things you can't control, but you can control what's going in here. Okay, maybe you cannot go out and run a mile, but maybe you could do some, limited motion exercise or whatever, but there are things you can do. And that's what you're kind of getting as, let's focus on the stuff you can control.
That's right. And the biggest thing you control is your attitude toward those things that you think are overwhelming and overpowering you. When you knock them down, it's like any fear. Once you knock it down, take it, into, like they say, I'm sure you've heard this at Toastmasters too. Picture the audience in their underwear or whatever it is. When you knock your fear down by laughing at it, when you get it below you, when you rise above it, you gain the control, you gain the power, and that's what it is. And the excuses, you're right. We hear so many excuses, and a lot of the time, okay, they are things. But even those things that are beyond control, people could take control of them. What I find in most cases, transformational excuses almost always are literally people saying, I'm not in control.
Yeah.
I'm scared that I'm not in control. Feel helpless because I'm not in control. And I don't like any of those feelings. So I'm going to create some conditions, some perceived, some slightly factual, etc. And all those conditions are going to do what for me? They'll present a justification to my excuses. I'm not in control, and here's why. Here's why I'm not in control. So now I can accept. I can live up
exactly, and I can live up to them. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I can accept that I'm not in control, and get away with having to, not do it, but not have to feel inferior because I'm not in control.
Right? Because exactly. Because it's not my problem. It's these things that are in control. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the toughest thing you do in coaching with anybody, but definitely with me, because this is kind of step one in my program, is you have to take ownership. Yeah. Because if you don't take ownership, you don't have control. If you don't have control, you can't find a solution. My favorite phrase, as it were, I have yet to confirm whether or not this is original. This could be, one quote one day attributed to only me. I don't know yet, but it's still my favorite, and it goes like this: the day that you can prove, with beyond a shadow of a doubt, that all the troubles in your life are someone else's fault, you're screwed.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because you have no control.
You have now fully relinquished control of your life. You're never going to get to where you want to be. And if you think that whoever has ruined your life is going to come bounding back in and go, gosh, I'm sorry, let me fix that.
Yeah. No.
You're in for an even bigger disappointment.
No.
You've got to take ownership. You got to take control. It's one of the most painful steps in anything you're doing. With you, you dealt not only with food, you dealt with addiction. And in both cases, I'm sure step one was taking ownership.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of the things, Blake, for me, it was just realizing that, holy crap, I'm the one that's been doing all this to myself, and I was making myself sick. And that's why I kind of discovered lifestyle medicine, where I started to think about, when I was reversing it, it's like, okay, if I'm the one making myself sick, then I got to change my behaviors and do things to get myself unsick, to move myself backwards from where I was. And that's kind of, I have a background in psych too, so it's kind of a double-edged sword, as you can imagine. And actually, you're going to deal with my ADD in this a little bit too, because we're going to jump around somewhat, if you don't mind. So let's talk a little bit. So it sounds like you've got a pretty good introspection into yourself as well as the clients. What's your education background, if you don't mind asking?
Believe it or not, my original education is CTSR, Cinema, Television, Stage, and Radio Arts.
Why is that not a surprise?
I told you before, I have a face for radio.
I'm glad you said it.
I actually was, talk about crazy timing. Now, you, sir, with all due respect, will be old enough to know there was once a radio dial that didn't have FM on it. Yeah. And that was in our time. That was in our era. Yeah. And I was a very young man at the time that FM suddenly popped up and became a thing. Yeah. My father worked for the CTV affiliate in Calgary, which was called CFCN Television. Yep. He was my father's chemical engineer, and for several years he developed the film for news and whatnot before film went away, and then for a few years he became the crew chief to the electronic news gatherers. So he was so valuable that instead of letting him go and letting him retire with film, they moved him into a new job, and he loved it. So But he worked at the station. He came home one day and he said, what year are you in that CTSR course? And I said, first year. He goes, oh, because they're hiring DJs at the station. And I said, well, I wouldn't be qualified for that, Dad. In first year, I can't even intern. I get nothing. He goes, well, he told me to come in to send you in. I said, really? It's like, okay. I'm thinking some wires got crossed, but I thought, I'm not going to miss a possible opportunity. I'm going to jump in there. Well, sure enough, I get there and I talk to the guy and I said, so what is the criteria for me to get this job? And he goes, say you'll do it. And I thought, oh, what kind of crap is this? You're giving away a job here,
Exactly.
I said, oh, okay. So that, I learned a long time ago, don't ask questions. Just, you can always back out later. You're too young to be burning a bridge. So just, well, the reason for it was simply this. The AM disc jockeys had no interest in this crazy, nutty passing phase called FM radio. So they literally couldn't give away the job. They offered these guys double hours, double pay for half the hour, like offers you would never refuse. And they said, no, it doesn't matter how much money you pay me. If I get on FM radio, I'm the joke of the radio. I'll have ruined my reputation. Now, less than a year later, I was unceremonially kicked out of the booth, and these guys took their place and started doing the job that, of course, now that's the thing, of course. Exactly. But at that time, this is what happens, right? This is what happens. They thought this would be Betamax, and, which actually had not even happened yet.
Exactly. Yeah,
this was before Betamax.
Oh, boy, we're dating ourselves here.
Oh, yeah. But this was the thing. And so, here I was, 19 years old. And I was the first morning man on FM radio in Calgary, Alberta, Miles in the Morning.
That is really cool. I don't think we ever talked about that, so I didn't know that. Wow.
Buddy, you'd be amazed. Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know that feeling. Yeah.
Done many, many, many things in my life, but it's all education. It all helps.
Yeah, it definitely does. Well, and I think that's great. It gives you the ability to communicate with people. Obviously, you're able to get on, online too. Now, it's funny. We talk. FM hasn't gone away, and you're right. Although AM hasn't either.
No.
And now we've got this whole medium that we're on right now doing a podcast, which is sort of like a new on-demand kind of radio thing. And it's opened avenues for like regular Joes like me and to get out there and do these things. So it's interesting how it's developed, and anybody can be.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
But amazing.
It's funny because I was just saying to my son that I read several articles, maybe 6 months ago, about podcast is dying. Don't get into that. It's all over. It's whatever. Right. I guess Mr. Joe Rogan would be the one who changed the scene there, I guess. But it's amazing because the same 2 or 3 people I saw write those articles are now writing articles about how to emulate the Joe Rogan experience.
And that's actually kind of what I've been using as an inspiration. I listen to a lot of his shows. There's several that I'm listening to. Actually, there's one a doctor I'm listening to because I'm planning to interview him. But I'm listening to all those formats. Joe is one that kind of took the podcast link thing to an extreme too, 2-3 hour, which I've been starting to do too. But they said, I read somewhere, Joe Rogan is the Walter Cronkite of our time.
Yeah, I would absolutely say that. I know I heard that said too, and I know some people stuck their nose up at that. And I guess side by side, Joe Rogan and Walter Cronkite don't come off in the same flavor.
Well, I don't think Walter Cronkite could kick as much butt as he could, but
well, exactly. And I think if Cronkite were alive today, he would have been the man who said it. I think he would have been the man to say. And he certainly would have interviewed Rogan.
Exactly. Well, look who wrote. He's interviewed the CEO of Twitter and and politicians, all kinds of people he gets on there. And next day, it's on the news.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the only thing is, with Joe Rogan's voice, I'd say he's maybe more the Barbara Walters than the Walter Cronkite.
Yeah, with a bit of filth mouth too. So.
Exactly. Yes, definitely the potty mouth. But that's kind of the flavor of the 21st century.
Yeah.
People speak their mind; they don't get filtered. And you know what? I would bear a little bit of filth here and there.
Yeah.
For the just for the sake of knowing that censorship is being well controlled. You know, that's the way that I look at it.
Exactly.
Is that we can't. And with all these movements and causes, and don't worry, I'm not going to go into it, buddy. I'm not going to get us in trouble with controversy here. But
no. This is 18.
that all those movements and causes are bringing us back little by little to the McCarthy era, you know, where everyone's having to be careful what they say. But
right.
You're right. You know what? I'm not worried about it because I think it's the same trend that you saw with political correctness a few years ago. Because the more political correctness tried to drill in, the more people like Howard Stern and company came forward and went, no. You know,
it's going to push the envelope here.
Exactly. And they, you know, it's checks and balance and checks and balance. Yeah. All these movements have a purpose. These social justice warriors, they get a lot of flack, but, you know, I like what they're trying to do. It's not, as with any movement, it's not always done the best way, but I like what they're trying to do. And without checks and balances, you know, on one hand, we're going to end up with anarchy and chaos. And I know you're a heavy metal headbanger. You love anarchy, but
exactly.
But not in our streets, you know. Keep
no, right. Controlled anarchy.
Exactly, controlled anarchy.
Just a little bit of anarchy.
We could create controlled anarchy as an actual thing. That would be utopia on Earth.
That's a good, like, we'll start a band together.
Yeah, we'll call it controlled anarchy.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. And if you don't have a check and balance against the control,
right,
you know, then you get the police state or whatever kind of thing you want to call it. So I think it's important. One thing rises, it gets knocked down a bit, it comes back, it comes down. It's nice. I just wish that these checks and balances and these counters and conflicts didn't create so much anger and hatred. That's you know, why people feel like they have to scream at each other and call each other horrible names. Just agree to disagree. You know, keep an eye on each other. Just, you know, be a quiet watchdog.
Are you seeing the same sensitivity up in Canada as we have here? I mean, just everybody seems so, the political record, it's gone overboard. You can't, I mean, to the point, like, we can't even say a gender anymore. And we can't, it's just gone crazy. It's like, okay, I just don't even want to talk anymore because I don't know what to call you. I don't know what the right term is. I don't know, you know, if I'm going to offend you. You know, I'll give you an example. You saw, I put out an ad. I tried to put out an ad with me and Vance.
Yes.
And Facebook says, "Oh, showing before and after pictures could hurt people's feelings." I'm like, wait, what?
But I'm the one in the picture.
Right. But I'm not trying to put people down. I'm trying to, and, you know, now maybe people I had many people out there respond. And some of them are people who are bigger people, and they said, no, these are not offensive. I was hoping I wanted to hear somebody tell me, yeah, Mike, it's offensive. And I said, message me. You can private message me. I just want to understand, because I don't want to go out and, you know, in our business, part of what we do, we want to show people's transformations to get people inspired and to say, hey, you know what? When people look at me and know I weighed over 400 pounds, and they look at me now and go, wait a second, I want some of that. I want to try. I don't lie to people and say it's easy, and I don't tell them that everyone, you know, has what it takes to get to it. You have the potential, but it drives me nuts. You know, Facebook had to do this thing now where they're like, okay, I mean, we could post pictures other than profanity. I can. You know, somebody was saying, oh, they're not tagging my picture. No, they're not bothering me when I post pictures, but they wouldn't let me advertise it. So it's crazy. Yeah, it's gotten really sensitive. Have you gotten pushback with any of the things that you've tried to do in your business?
Not really, but I adamantly avoid controversy.
Okay.
I really tiptoe around it. I make no apologies, and I don't hide that.
Well, because it affects your business. It affects your ability to do business because, you know.
I stand for something. I believe in something, and I will get on a weekly rant because, you know, rants sell. Okay, let's just.
That's true.
About it. Rants sell. People.
We should have done a debate here.
There you go. But when you're going to rant, you want to rant about, you know, what you believe in and how you serve people, and you know, how your higher ideal will make the world a better place. You don't want to rant about how stupid somebody is.
Well, yeah.
How dumb someone's values are.
Well, we've got enough of that anyway.
Exactly. But the one thing I really find is, and I will use the body shaming establishment as an example, is I find that it's all like Marxism. Okay. Marxism was a brilliant idea.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
I should never say that to an American.
No, I was getting a picture of Groucho for you and asking.
Yeah. I was thinking more Harpo.
Oh,
but,
okay. Oh, all right.
No, but that seventh Marx brother, Carl. He was. There were 6 actual Marx brothers, right?
5.
I thought there was that.
There was
Gummo. That 6th one that everyone remembers about.
There was Gummo.
There was Gummo, Zeppo,
Harpo,
Groucho,
Chico.
Harpo, Chico. I thought there was that other one that never showed up.
Well, let's just say for the sake there was.
Oh, there you go. But I ruined the joke. Anyway, Marxism was a great concept until corrupt people with a damaged agenda got a hold of it and tried to make it into a single blanket proposition, one rule for all, for an entire group of people. And if you look at it, that's every movement and cause going. Let's look at body shaming. What a great idea. We've been there. Even in modern times, in today, when I was younger and I was in school, there was, pardon the expression, and really it's a horrible thing to hear someone say, especially the fat kid. Yep. I mean, and listen to how awful it sounds today, more than even 10 years ago, because that's just a horrible thing to say and always to think it. And I remember, I remember who it was. I remember the man's name, and I won't say it, but I remember the name of the student who had the weight problem. And of course, nowadays it's students. It's, there isn't the one chubby person. There's lots and lots. Back when I was a kid, there was the one person who stood out. Yeah. And I remember befriending him because, I'm kind of that kind of guy. And, because I just couldn't, again, it's that empathy, right? It's like I felt his pain. It embarrassed and hurt me to see people being so cruel to him.
Yeah, because he's just a person.
How can you do that? What did he do to you? What, what is his eating disorder, whatever it is he's dealing with? What the heck does it do to you? How is it harming you? Why do you, that's your insecurity. That's your own weakness. Oh, hey, look, I'll transfer it onto this guy. Anyway, so the body shaming movement, that's what it's going after. It's going after bullies, and it's going after cruelty, and it's going after narrow-mindedness, in which case it is a brilliant idea. But then an institution like Facebook takes it with, and I'm not going to call them a corrupt institution. They're not, but they are a profit-based business. Right. They have to have a certain criteria. They do have their limited agenda. They've got their specific mandate. And most importantly, once again, they're trying to create a blanket, one rule for all application for a large population of people. And that's when you end up losing the humanity that is behind a concept like body shaming or body love. I like the more positive side of it, self-love and self-admiration and body acceptance. There's some beautiful, beautiful terms coming out of that movement that I love, and that's fantastic. But they're filled with humanity and compassion and tolerance and kindness and support. But all that humanity is stripped away as soon as a government or an organization has to take the loving concept and smack it into policy. Yep. Policies rip the humanity out of things. And next thing you know, you've got people attacking the progenitors of the body shaming, body love movement because of what it's become. And it's like, hey, you know what? Pick your fight. Okay. Whatever gorgeous, beautiful human soul dreamt up the idea of creating a movement to sweep the world, cover the world with love and understanding, did not ever intend for this to be some kind of political correct, muzzling, censorship type of thing. That's not what they were trying to do. They were trying to foster love and care and understanding from all of us, one another, help each other out. Right. You're fat, you're thin, I'm short, you're tall. Let's all join hands and love and be together. That's what, kumbaya. That's what they were looking for, and yet they're the ones that are bearing the brunt. You social justice warriors, you stupid body shaming people. No, not them. It's the institutions that have taken it and corrupted it into something meaningless, lifeless, with no humanity or love, because they've got to turn it into a policy. Yep. So once again, we can blame everything on the lawyers. There's
an organization I came into when I first started posting a lot of my articles and pictures, I ran into some folks who are on that other side who taught me some things that I had to learn about, because initially when I started seeing this, I don't know how to call it, but when I started seeing, there was a picture of the world's first plus size supermodel. And initially, back in my early days, I kind of took a step back and I was like, wow, are we glorifying unhealthiness? And I kind of took that stance back then. And what I really started to realize as I studied more and as I learned more is that, one, your health is your personal choice. And it really isn't, I'm not one to dictate what anyone else deems for themselves their level of healthiness. And two, you can be both overweight and healthy. And I came across this group called Health at Every Size, HAES.
Yep.
And there's another woman out there that who is a big proponent. Actually, she's Canadian. I think she's from Montreal, plus size backpacker. And she is a big advocate for body acceptance, especially for larger size people. And it taught me a lot just becoming friends with those people, because I kind of took a step back. Now, here I lived most of my adult life as a very large man. And then suddenly I was on the other side, and I, in my mind, had shifted a little bit going, well, this is the right way. And then I really kind of checked myself and I said, well, is it really the right way? I mean, I had conversations with my brother about that too, where it was kind of like, I mean, I had to kind of understand that people have to make choices for themselves. And I'm not one to dictate that, well, just because you are not able to get healthy or choose to not do the same things I'm doing, it doesn't mean that what I'm doing is right or wrong. It's just right for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's making sense, but the point is, I emphasize more to people nowadays. I don't really even advocate weight loss anymore. I really advocate for people to look at health. I think I get scared of the scale now, because I end up having, and I'm sure with the clients you deal with too, it's like you become obsessed with it, and you can vary a pound in a day or 2 pounds either after a bowel movement or after eating or whatever else here and there, and it doesn't really mean anything. What matters at the end of the day is really, are you healthy and are you happy?
Yeah.
And I think when you focus on those two things, so you can be, I hate to use big, I guess relative, right, and happy and healthy all at the same time. I mean, I know a lot of people who are thin, or I know a lot of people who are physically fit, but may not necessarily be holistically healthy, because either they're pushing themselves. Think about like competitive bodybuilders and what they got to do to push themselves to that limit. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're holistically healthy. You hear guys having heart attacks because they're pushing themselves too hard, or they're, or supermodels who are too skinny. And, people have this idea that thinner is better. You know how many people I know who are, quote, normal weight and are way unhealthy than somebody who might be, quote, plus size? I'm doing a lot of air quotes here right now.
That's right.
So this whole body shape thing, I want to move away from it. I really think that it's just a ridiculous notion. Now, certainly when you are at the extreme, then there's a whole other set of things. But is it really the fact that, when I was 400 pounds, was it the 400 pounds was the problem, or was it my health habits that was causing me to have excess body fat? Mm-hmm. Visceral body fat, as they call it, right, on my body. And so I look at more of a symptom now, because I work my butt off and I'm still overweight, but I'm healthier than I ever was.
Yeah, well, I mean, because you're active, you're moving, your health is right. I don't know what percentage better than it was, but
exactly,
huge percentage.
Exactly,
and it's not.
But I'm supposed to weigh 170 pounds according to the stupid chart.
Exactly, and that's the problem. Is that in our struggle for the quick answer to things, we're always looking for the chart, the magic pill, the solution. We want instant gratification, and it always blows me away. I always have to have the conversation with people, and it's not just about weight. It's any transformation in their life, even financial transformations. I talk to clients. I always have to have this conversation, because they'll come to me after months, weeks. Some people after days will come back and go, why am I not seeing a change? And I'll say, let me just ask you a simple question. How long did it take you to get to where you are right now? And this was the easy part. Losing money, gaining weight. That's the easy part. It's easy to gain the weight. It's easy to spend your money. It's easy. You did the easy part. How long did it take for you to do the easy part of getting to the space you are now that you don't want to be? And oftentimes that's the end of the conversation. That's all that triggers it in their head. They just go, oh yeah, like 3 or 4 years. It's like, yes, it took you 3 or 4 years to deconstruct your life and bring it down to the rubble that's in front of you.
Yep.
How long do you realistically think it's going to take to rebuild the once great monument that has disintegrated in front of you? If you're not counting on at least half as long to bring it back, then yeah, you're going to become discouraged. There's no room for sustainable change if you're coming in going, well, here we go. And yet we see it all the time. January 1st, hey, I just paid $350 to that gym down the road.
Yeah.
The pounds are now going to fall off of me.
Yeah.
And next week when I go see the doctor, he'll say, hey, give me those pills back. There's no heart attack risk for you anymore.
Exactly.
And people really think it. And come February, they're going, I've gained 3 pounds, but I bought a gym membership. Yes, but you neglected to attend the gym.
And you didn't really change your diet. And,
exactly. You changed nothing, except now, at the rate you're going, in a few months, you'll be asking me to coach you on financial problems too, because you're throwing money at everything. And so you're going to be out of money and no further ahead. And it's just incredible. And I'm not mocking that mindset in any way when I say it.
No,
it's horrifying, and we're all guilty of it. Of that blindness, of that
it takes a while to accept. It really does take a while to accept. I think for the longest time, I remember searching for the perfect exercise that was going to help me lose the weight. And I can remember that. I remember that rope exercise thing where you had those big ropes.
The battle ropes.
I remember when that first came out. It was probably about maybe 7-8 years ago. I heard about it, and I was like, and I heard, it burns all kinds of calories, and apparently it does burn a lot of energy. Okay, and so I was convinced I got to buy one of these things because it's got to be the thing to do, And when I look back now, how naive I was, not even thinking about the fact that, of course, back then I didn't really realize that 80% probably of what's going in your mouth is really what's going to change your body. It's important to do the physical exercise, go to the gym and all that, but that's not going to be the answer. You're not going to see it on the scale, and that takes some accepting for people. I don't know why people still struggle with that.
Well, people struggle with balance, and a lot of it is time. I know time excuses are just that, excuses, but at the same time, in this day and age, there is a complete validity to the time excuse. There is a genuine perception. It is real. The fact is simply, though, people don't take the time to sit down, take stock of their time, and figure out, there are some hours in the day I could be devoting to my health, but I'm choosing to have nachos, beer, and my favorite TV show.
But Blake, what I say to that too, in what I had to learn, maybe this is just me, I put health number one. So
and you have to.
Because I feel like, okay, above my job even, I'm not even good to my family if I don't do something for my health, because now it was the other way around before, but now I feel like, no, I'm going to look for excuses. That's why even at work, I take an hour walk and I talk to my job. I said, I'm going to take an hour walk during lunch. Problem with that? No, because I tell you what, I'm going to be a better Mike in the afternoon when I come back.
Yeah.
And I think that how do we get people to that mindset? I don't know, and I don't know that everybody thinks that same way, but when you transform your mind to the point where you start saying to yourself, something, I got this long to live. I don't know how long it is. It could be tomorrow. It could hopefully be 50, 60, 80 years from now, but I'm going to do the best I can with what I've got, the time I got left. And one of the things is taking care of this machine, this thing I live in here. And it takes a while, But I think that's where people, when they start looking at it, they stop making the excuses about the time, because it's like, something, I'll be honest, my house is falling apart. Oh, well, you know what? I'd rather be out in the woods hiking than working on my gutters. Because my gutters.
You'll always find time somewhere to repair the house, to repair the building, to even repair the relationship. God forbid that it comes to that. And well, obviously it's not. Clearly Terry is incredibly supportive of what you're doing, and
exactly.
It's great. Yeah. But any of those things, there's time to rebuild them. There's no time to rebuild this. If you break this, it's no. You have a little minor damage, yes, but once you break it seriously, it's no. If the whole roof caves in your house, you can repair it. You can repair it. You'll be there another day as long as you weren't standing right under it. But, if the roof caves in your body, you're done. That's it. It's over. You don't need to make any more time excuses, because you got no more time. So
I watched my father for years, put so much effort into restoring. He liked he was one of those muscle car guys. And for years, he'd buy the good oil, put it in the racing fuel, all that, and the best stuff into it. And yet he put garbage in his own body. And then, when he died at 63, he had colon cancer several years before, and then lung cancer. And and that's when I realized, holy crap, he killed himself. He did it. And I think he realized it at the end. But it's amazing that people, that mindset, I'm going to put this object, I'm going to wax this thing and make it look nice and put the best quality stuff in it. But then, because we don't think about the consequences, you smoke one cigarette, you're not going to die tomorrow. I heard a doctor talking about it one time. It's like a slow moving bullet. And I said, well, yeah, it's like a slow moving bullet. Well, that's a hard one to say. But it's coated with sugar and other addictive substances, they get you, and
that's right.
Oh my gosh. Hey, I was on this. Let's just real quick, let's tell the listeners before we get too far, and at the end we'll do the same thing. So your company is N2L Transformations.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And you want to tell just folks real quick. So we've talked a little bit about some of the stuff, but maybe we can just kind of do a quick little plug of what it is you do and services and whatnot. Yeah.
N2L Transformations. Actually, it's great. I missed a wonderful segue into this a few seconds ago when we were talking.
Okay. Well, we got it now.
You made the great point that you got to just get away from that whole, throw the scale in the garbage and get away from the whole body thing. And it's about health. It's about wellness is what it's about. And I went through that transition because when I first started the company, which was back in 2014, and it was called N2L Health and Fitness. That was the original name of my company. And there's still, here and there, you can see evidence of it existing. And people will say, yeah, I remember it used to be called N2L. And they say, why did you change it? And I said, because, I'm just tired of everything being about health and fitness. Because it's not about fitness. It's especially not about fitness. Because fitness, you say fitness, people think body immediately. And you say health, and people tend to think of medicine.
Yeah,
I think medicine, medication.
Yeah, sure.
Getting better, getting whatever, and it's like, no, you know what? That's not what life needs to be about. Life needs to be about wellness, and wellness goes beyond health and goes beyond fitness, goes beyond anything physical. Anyway, I mean, one of the most important and yet the most ignored, neglected wellnesses that we can have is spiritual. And I'm not talking about religion. We're not going to get I avoid controversy. Believe in whatever you want.
Yep. Stay diplomatic, right? Yeah.
Just have faith. Doesn't matter what it is. Maybe just in yourself even. Yep. Just have faith. But no, what spirituality really, it really truly is when you think about it, is being in touch with your true self. Yeah. That's spirituality. It's getting inside you. Yep. Emotion, mental health is about our minds. Physical health is about our bodies. Financial health is about our bank account.
Right.
Emotional health is about our heart. Spiritual health is about our soul. And your soul is your true self, regardless of what you believe in, regardless of what your religion, says is your soul. Your soul represents your true self. And we are so detached from our genuine selves.
Tell me about it.
That it's ridiculous. And I would put it to you that that's what happened when you looked in the mirror at a 400-pound man.
Yeah.
You said somewhere deep inside, and not just deep underneath this physical large exterior, but even further inside there is my true self.
Right.
There's genuine me. Genuine Mike is in here somewhere. Right now, genuine Mike is buried not just under folds of flesh or fat, visceral fat or whatever. Real Mike is also buried under emotional trauma.
Yep.
And physical strain and self-doubt.
Self-hate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so before you took your physical journey, which is great because, I really believe that it was important for you in so many ways. But long before you took your physical journey, before you approached your emotional journey, before you even began your mental journey and began your research and studying how to do it and moving yourself into that frame of mind, I'm going to get her done.
Yep.
Before any of that happened, you took your spiritual journey.
Yeah. It was an awakening.
Yes. You found true Mike and said, we need to let him out. we need to find the door and let true Mike out. And thankfully, here he is.
Thank you. But you stated, and I've never really thought of it in those terms, but it is an interesting way because I always talk about my father's death being sort of one of the pivotal moments. There were a lot of things that made me want to change, but it was when I realized, when I saw my father die at his own hands, and I realized, at the time, I didn't even care about my own life. I was just, I like the way you put it, because the way I always said is, I was dead, and like you're saying, spiritually dead. I wasn't living. And you know what I mean? I was alive. My heart was beating, but I wasn't living.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the pivotal moment when I decided, as you're saying, spiritually, to live. And that's heavy, when you think about that, literally, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But
that's right.
And you're dealing with this all the time when you see people have that sort of like awakening where they're kind of like, wow, something, I haven't been putting any emphasis on me in my life and how important it is for me to take care of myself.
Yeah. And that's why I changed the name, because I said, look, life isn't health and fitness. Health and fitness is an industry. It's a movement. It's a set of actions. It's a great thing, but we got it covered. There's lots of people taking care of that. I said, I need to be doing something a little more important. I need to be doing something a little more special. And it occurred to me that when someone walks in the room and says, I need to lose a few pounds, there's lots of folks out there who say, yeah, I got a great program for you. I'm going to get those 10 pounds off you in no time. Yeah. There needs to be someone who goes, this has nothing to do with losing 10 pounds. What's really wrong? And if you talk long enough to someone who says, I just need to lose a few pounds, if you go deep enough spiritually and talk to them long enough, you'll have them crying in your arms saying, I think my husband's going to leave me. Yeah. I think my life is ending. I think, and you get to the truth, and all they've done is because of the bombardment of media and all that. They've thought, well, maybe the answer to my problems is to lose some weight. It's like, no, the answer to your problems is to find your true self and figure out if what you're doing is true to your true self, and go get the life that you deserve. And if you think your husband is going to leave you, it's not because you're carrying a few extra pounds, and sadly, you might have to face the fact that the reason your husband is going to leave you is because he doesn't deserve you. and the tumblers have fallen into place, and you need to pack his bags, open the door, and say, probably a good idea, Bob. See you later. Instead of you taking the onus yourself, if you're going to take the responsibility to change your life, take the responsibility to find your true self, find your true values, and find what means something to you, what's going to allow you to live your best life. Because as soon as you live your best life, you bring your best to everyone else. You serve your family, your community, your world better. So it's got to be you first. When the plane's going down, what do they tell you to do? Put your mask on first, because until you're well, you cannot serve anyone else. You can't save lives.
Amen.
Your own.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, brother. Hallelujah. Don't get me going, or I'll tell you about how
I want to start hearing you preach.
I was almost in the clergy. You're going to go, another job. Oh my goodness.
No. Hey, we can talk. We can talk. I like it. Well, you know what? There's a lot of parallels to that. Like your you're starting to validate something I keep saying. And sometimes I think people get a little sensitive about it, and some people are in denial about it. I'm going to just speak on from my perspective for where I was and the extreme weight cases, people who have 100 pounds, 200 pounds weight, the extreme unhealthiness. And the majority of people that I meet, you're dealing with something either emotional or psychological at the root. Because it really comes down to you stop caring about yourself enough to take care of yourself. Now, I have people who just say, well, I like to eat. Hey, listen, man, so do I. But not to the point where it's going to kill me. Back then I didn't care, and I don't think I realized it. But, at a certain point where you're eating to the point where you lose mobility, where you are on a CPAP machine and, and these other things. And it's like, okay, what's, like you said, like, what's really going on here? And, I've ruffled feathers saying it. Now, I'm not, neither of us, we're not here to make friends. We're here to help and try to be realistic with people. But some people don't want to face the fact that it's my husband at the root of it. And sometimes that can be difficult too, but it sounds like you have a pretty good skill at getting to that root.
Well, I think the thing is that, we know it's very damaging when you need to take responsibility for your actions and your change and your transformation, and you're making excuses and blaming it on someone else. But that's not nearly as deadly as when it is an outside influence, a toxic influence in your life that's adding to your problems or exacerbating them or even just creating them. And instead you're taking the blame. It's the opposite side of the same coin, but it's much more damaging when you're offering yourself up as the reason for the problem. Oh, I better lose that extra bit of weight because that's why Bob doesn't love me anymore. No, Bob doesn't love you because he's a jerk who's screwing his secretary. Right. Bob doesn't love you because he doesn't appreciate and deserve you. But then you have this, and I don't mean to portray the forlorn housewife or whatever.
Right. Yep.
Unfortunately, a glaring example of people who take the blame for something that isn't their fault and seek a solution that isn't a solution, has nothing to do with the problem, and they're beating themselves up. And I'll jump back real quick and say, God bless you, body shaming, community, because those are the kind of people you're really helping. Those are the people you're helping. Those are the people you're reminding. Stop taking the blame for this. It's not your fault. You're a wonderful, beautiful person. And if Bob can't appreciate that you gained a few pounds because you gave him 2 beautiful children and you're still gorgeous and fantastic, and it's his narrow-minded, short-sightedness that's causing this problem, then please let him move on. Seriously, get going. Yep. And that's I think that's the deadlier thing is when somebody's taking the blame, and it is the outside influence. And some people are doing this horrible balance of both. They're not taking ownership for the things that they can control, and they're trying to take ownership of the things over which they don't have any control. And there's no faster way to spiral yourself into a horrifying frustration and tenseness than that. That's just every day you're moving exactly in the perfect wrong direction. And sometimes it's as simple and as absolutely complicated as flipping it. Just sometimes the coaching is simply
scary. It is scary sometimes.
Flip it over. And it's simple to view it, to see it. You can talk to somebody for a few minutes and go, I get the problem. You just got it backwards. But then to help them to wedge that out and move it into the position it's supposed to be in,
sometimes it's wedged in, right? It's wedged in.
That's right, and they don't want to change that dynamic. They don't want.
Well, people don't like to change. It's resistant. We get comfortable where we are, even if it's painful.
That's right, and even especially if that change to their perception is going to create more pain. Yep. Right? No, hey, listen, seriously, Mary, this problem is Bob, not you.
Right.
Well, that's nice to hear for most people, but not for Mary, because Mary hears, oh my goodness, so the solution to the problem is going to be
it's going to rock her world.
A divorce. It's going to be ruining our family. It's going to be whatever. No one wants to hear that. It's like, you know what? I'll just go ahead and keep blaming myself and leave everything the way it is. I don't want the mess and confusion of facing this truth that you're telling me. I'm going to go ahead with the denial And what's that going to do to a person over a certain amount of time? And the next thing you know, you're reading the paper, it's like, my God, Mary killed Bob.
Oh boy, I shouldn't laugh. But
no, but I mean, it sort of makes you laugh from the irony of it, because at least one of these times when they, and they always interview the person, she was so quiet. They seem to have a great relationship. Yeah. It's like, well, because you didn't know they had a great relationship because Mary kept taking the blame for everything, volunteered for it, and one day she snapped. And that's, hopefully that's not the end to every story, but you can't tell me for a second that when you read those uncanny stories of tragedy or whatever, that it didn't begin with the seed of something that somebody could have stopped. Somebody could have turned it around, and somebody just taking too many hits for something that isn't their fault, and they did it to themselves. That's the saddest part. They did it to themselves. So
that's heavy, and it's kind of scary that I think we get trapped in these patterns and in these sort of I can't remember the saying, but when you're up too close to it, you can't see it. You can't see where you really are. It can't be objective. And, we can stand outside sometimes and it looks simple, but boy, getting people to change is a scary thing for them, especially you're taking a leap of faith. So, but that's really what it takes. I mean, I think my journey took a leap of faith. And I think that's Terry always says that you're going to find, I have this whole thing about Terryisms, and Terry says that you got to fake it till you make it. And sometimes people do. They have to kind of like, all right, I'll try it, and try it out. And maybe Mary, that's kind of what she's got to do, is like, it's, I guess the lesser, let me just see. It couldn't be, because honestly, I went through a divorce and I was scared to death for years beforehand because, we were struggling to do it. And it is tough to go through. It's a horrible thing to go through, but you live through it. And ultimately, your kids and whatever else go through it. And, if it's toxic, you gotta deal with it if you can't repair whatever's going on. It's interesting.
That's very true. It's you can't hang on to something toxic, because you're not the only person that will be poisoned. That's the thing. It's when you hang on to the toxicity, it poisons it.
Oh, yeah. There's a Buddhist saying like that. It's something about how does it go? Holding on to anger is like holding on to a hot coal that you want to throw at someone. The only one that gets burned is yourself.
That's right. That's exactly right. I also love the one that says holding a grudge is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die.
Wow. Ooh, it's funny. Vance had a couple of the guy I interviewed a couple weeks ago here had some good ones. That's a good one. I'm going to put that one.
I love that one, because that's, when you're feeling upset, you're seething, whether it's some road rage or whatever it is, it's one of those moments where you're not thinking rationally and you want to strike back at somebody. Just stop for a second and recite that in your head, because it really is true. You're the one who's going to drink the poison, and nothing's going to happen to the person that you're thinking of while you're drinking it. And you will eventually tear your insides apart or even kill yourself over this unnecessary anger. They're not worth it. In most cases, people that conjure that kind of anger in you are not worthy of that much of your emotion. That's really the way I look at it. I will not waste my emotions on someone who makes me feel that way when I could be investing those emotions in someone who makes me feel the way you do.
Life's too short for that. I mean, really.
Exactly. Very true.
I wanted to touch on something. I think this is a good time to talk about something that I think is important for you as a coach. And we're kind of going back to the health stuff, even though I know you do a lot more than just that, but it's something that helps people in you relating with people. So you have your own health transformation journey that, if you wouldn't mind sharing, because I'm going to explain part of it. I've met a number of people who are fitness professionals and, teach people who've never been obese. And I'm always curious about that. In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine, Gilad. I don't know if you know who Gilad is, but we were talking here. He's my biggest inspiration. But we got to talking and he's like, yeah, I've never been overweight. And I'm like, wow, but your big thing is about teaching people how to get fit. And he struggles to understand about eating disorders. He said to me, well, I can't imagine, how somebody eats an entire package of cookies. And I'm like, you should have been here the other night when I did it. And so you've been there. You've struggled in the past with your own health. And would you mind sharing a little bit about that? I mean, were you big as a child? It sounds like.
No, I was the 98-pound weakling until I was about 30, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, so later in life, yeah.
Yeah, oh, big time. I would have been pretty sure would have been in my 30s, just after my daughter was born. That would have been the first time I ever saw a 2 in my weight. Even in the distance. Yeah. And my mom was a big lady. My mom was a member of some organization, TOPS, Weight Watchers, you name it.
Oh yeah, I was part of TOPS. Yeah.
Yep. Take off, pound sensibly. It's a great organization. Great organization, in fact. Some of what they taught is still relevant today.
Absolutely.
And, it's amazing. Yeah. But she struggled with it because she was looking for an end game, and a lot of people in that era were. She wasn't looking for a sustainable lifestyle change.
Yes, another amen, brother.
She was looking for the end game, and she would reach it so she could go on that cruise and feel good, and then she'd indulge on the cruise, come back depressed, start again, rinse, repeat. She died of pancreatic cancer at 61. Wow. So, and I'm sure the lifestyle she led of yo-yoing in her weight and everything else, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know what causes pancreatic cancer, but you can't have helped. That lifestyle could not possibly have helped. So I knew that it was always there. My sister's a big girl. So it's in my family. My father is, his birthday was just this past St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah. And that would have been his 83rd birthday. That would be his 83rd birthday.
Yeah.
And at 83, he still weighs in around 160 pounds. Wow. So he's a small man. He's 6 foot
he's short, or is he?
No, he's 6'1". Yeah. So he's a thin
skinny guy. Yeah, I was just gonna say that's really skinny.
Always has been.
Okay.
He was in the engineering corps in the Army for 4 years.
Okay.
And I don't know how they took him. I've seen pictures of him.
He was skinny then.
Yeah.
So he never had a weight problem, or?
No, never. And he was a pretty heavy beer drinker. And he never really developed the gut. So, so genetics is part of it sometimes.
But interesting point, as you and I both know, that doesn't, because he doesn't put on fat on his body, doesn't necessarily mean he's healthy inside. It sounds like he's healthy if he's 83 still.
I think maybe just pickled and preserved, perhaps. He's
so the genetics point, right? So he probably has the genes that some of these.
And he comes from we have several members of the family, all in his lineage, who have lived past 100. So it's a long life is in his genes. So it's, no matter what he does to himself, he may just be blessed with it. So, and he's Irish. So, how long I love the Irish.
Yes. Yes. Well,
I do have a bit of Irish in me, my friend. Yeah. More Scottish, but but it's, So I always knew that it was a possibility.
Okay.
But I lived so much of my life without it being there, even though I saw it in my mother and I saw it in my sister, and I got cocky about it. I really did. And I reached a point in my life where my lifestyle stopped being active. And I now realize, through my own education, understanding, enlightenment, et cetera, looking back, literally I put on the brakes and slowed my activity level to half.
Wow.
And yet maintained the same eating habits. And I remember I heard John on your podcast talk about the same thing. He led an incredibly active athletic lifestyle. And so he could chug, a keg and eat a pizza. And then suddenly his life became sedentary, and he still changed. He didn't change the eating habits, and that is exactly what happens. So what happened to me was in 2009, the big economic turndown, the Great Recession. I ended up in this little low-paying warehouse job that I was very fortunate to have. A lot of people had no job at all. I was very lucky to get this position. And the problem with it was I spent a lot of time on my butt. So we were unloading trucks, and if there was no truck, you sat in your chair and got paid to dink around Facebook, and great job, wonderful and everything. But there I sat. I had a very, very heavy fella as a boss. He was a great guy. We were the same age. We got along well. Yeah. And when the days were slow, he loved to take me out for lunch. And off we went, you know. And so, and again, these aren't excuses. These are the reasons.
No reasons, yeah.
The cause was my choice to go. Yeah. It was like, yeah, no, go ahead, order me another one, you know. Yep. Oh, I can't say no, he's my boss.
Yeah.
Come on. You know, that's just, you know. Anyway, next thing I know, they got a freight scale in the shipping department across the way at Ryder Trucks. We shared a building with them. And the lady who was running it there was showing it off, and we thought, oh, hey, this will be funny. Let's get on and weigh ourselves. And she said, the lady, Diane, she said, oh, no, guys, it's a freight scale. You won't be big enough. You won't be heavy enough to register a weight on this scale. It's meant for, you know, large cargo. So just, you know, goofing around anyway, I stood on it, and it registered. And I saw Diane just kind of look down because she didn't know at that point what to say. Because she was about to say, oh, you shouldn't be heavy enough to register. Yeah, and you could see it about to come out of her mouth, and she went, I can't say that. And I just sat there and went, oh, my God. And I tell you, Mike, I didn't look at the number. I didn't look at what the reading was.
So, but you were in denial.
Yeah, exactly. I went, oh, I got a reading. I don't want to know what it is. You know, it took me several days to finally get on a scale and discovered that I had topped 300 pounds. Okay. I had. Sorry about that. My phone's going there. Oh, just turn that off.
So, how tall are you?
I'm 5'11".
5'11". Okay. Oh, you're a little taller than me. Okay. Yeah.
So it's, you know, not, you know, the average-ish height.
Yeah.
But still not tall enough to get away with 300.
No, 300 is a lot. Yeah.
Now, my son is about 220, 230, you know, give or take, whatever. But he's 6'6".
Holy mackerel.
So he carries it well.
I think I've seen pictures. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and he walks to and from work. Okay. And he plays sports with his friends, and so I mean, he's, you know, he's. Sorry about that.
That's happened.
He's so I mean, he can carry it. You know, he gets away with carrying that weight. But I didn't. And the horrifying thing for me was, as I said to you, I'd never even seen a 2 at the front of my weight number. You know, and it was. I never saw it. Like, I never saw it. I was at 180, 190, 305. You know, it was like, whoa.
It's interesting that you say that, because I remember the point. I remember when I was about 19 or so, and I probably crossed over the 2s, and I was kind of like, it took me a while to kind of like, all right, and I didn't think about it. And it's kind of like you get up to that certain point, and then it's like, I crossed to 3, and I'm like, okay, that's crazy. I shouldn't be 300. I don't know what happened by the time I got to 4, and I was like, what the heck is going on here? Like, how did they slip up? You're in denial at that point. It sounds like you were too. Like, you didn't even think, you know, that you would register on that big freight scale, but all of a sudden you were like, wait a second. It just hits you like a ton of bricks. You're like, whoa. Like, the first time I heard that, I was morbidly obese, and I remember the doctor used that word. And first I thought, morbid obesity, it sounds like a death metal band. You know?
Well, yeah, I know, it does. What a horrible expression.
Yeah, and I was like, actually, there was I love to mention a Family Guy. I remember when, if you watch Family Guy, Peter's doctor said to him that he was fat, and Peter's like, wait, what? What do you mean I'm fat? I'm not fat. He was just complete denial about it. And it was probably one of those moments where, I mean, you probably knew that you were overweight, but somehow you never, that connection, you lose it at some point. It's like you said earlier, you didn't get there overnight. I mean, if you went from, you know, 190 to 303 in, you know, a month, you know, it'd be like, all right.
Something's going on here.
But it crept up. It crept up.
Yeah, and you know, I'd go to one lunch too many and think, I got to stop doing this. I must be putting on a few pounds, you know, and yeah, you don't realize it's like, oh, if I keep eating like this, I'm going to be gaining weight. And the time at which I said that, I was already way far gone. But in my perception, I was going, I have to stop soon, or I'll lose control. And I'd already lost control. It was over. It was done, you know. So I went home that day, and you know, the day that I finally got on the scale, I walked into my wife and there were tears coming down my eyes. She goes, "What's the matter?" And I just looked at her and went, "I'm fat. I'm over." Right? You know what I mean?
That's sad, but it's
Yeah. And she just looked at me and she went, yeah, And she wasn't trying to be cruel. She just couldn't understand that I was standing in this room with her after all these months and all these pounds. She'd watched it happen. And I'm standing there suddenly going, "Hey, I just had a revelation. I appear to be overweight, And she's just looking at me like, "How did you miss it? How did you?" And so it was an incredibly emotional time. And I said, "I don't know what I'm going to do." And she said, "Well, when the economy gets better, we'll get you out of that job, because even there she is enabling me, right? She's telling me, "Oh, that's the reason they're helping me with my excuses," just to be kind and sweet.
Well, yeah, people do the best they can. I had a conversation like that the night with Terry about ice cream, because I keep eating it up on her. And she's like, "Well, I'll just do this and that." I was like, "Well, that's not solving the problem, Terry."
No, you're supposed to stop me. Take it out of my hands.
Yeah. Well, or not buy it, but I can't expect her to do that.
Or not buy it. Yeah, that's just it. Sure. So I said, "Look, I've got to make a change." I went to see the doctor. I did this. I did that. Blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
I'm gonna.
Yep.
And nothing. And then, fate stepped in. And this is the quote unquote unfortunate part of my story, because something happened to me to help push me.
Yep.
And it's very hard for me because as a coach, I have to tell people, no, you must create this motivation in yourself. But then I have to confess, I was given a gift. Okay. I was given something to push and to motivate me. And I don't invite anyone to bring trauma into their life in order to get motivated. Right. If something happens and it pushes you, great. Yeah. But I'm not going to say, "Hey, go out looking for trouble. See if you can stir up some horrifying trauma in your life." Don't know. You got to find it somewhere else. And so it is the one thing I struggle with sometimes in coaching people is that the one part I didn't live is I lived their struggle. I lived their denial. Right. I lived their procrastination. I've been there for all of that. So they've got my empathy. They've got my love there. But when it comes to the point where they say, "Well, what can I do to trigger the motivation?" Same here. That's where I say, "Well, let's explore that." Because when you discovered, it's going to be a new thing to me too. Because I did not have that. That didn't happen to me.
You didn't?
It was the birth of my granddaughter was what
it triggered.
Did it for me. Because where I kept being able to make
excuses, a beautiful thing. That's
where I kept being able to procrastinate, waste time, lie to myself, etc. When all of a sudden, boom, my daughter, my teenage daughter, still in high school, says, "Daddy, you're going to be a grandpa at 44. And, whatever." And I said, it's funny because the next day I got up at, 3:30 or 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I went to the gym that I'd had a long-standing membership at, of course, and had never set foot in. Yeah. And I went and, oh my goodness, I worked out like a madman and, just on the treadmill and doing whatever. Yeah. I really overdid it, of course,
Yeah, but I
came home and my wife said, "What the heck? Where did that suddenly come from?" And I just said, "I can't take care of a baby, but I have to. You're making the money. My salary's a joke. You're making the money. Our daughter has to go back to school. I'm raising a baby because we're not giving it up. We're not, again, I'm not going to talk to beliefs, you do what you have to do, but that wasn't our beliefs. Our beliefs was, no, this baby's going to be born.
But it was your why. This was your why.
This was my why. And it was like, look, I got to get on with it. I got to start now. I got to, boom. In a few short months, the baby will be here. Maternity time will be over. I'm going to be handed this child. And I can't walk up a flight of 10 stairs without having to stop halfway to catch my breath. Come on, seriously. I just, boom. And not only did I get it done, I got it done extremely quickly. I got it done very effectively, very healthy. I educated myself beyond belief in doing it in order to get it done quickly and effectively. And I literally trained myself to become a phenomenal physical trainer because I had to get it done and do what I had to do and get there. And then as that was building, then of course we got struck with the financial impact of what we were doing, and the extra costs with me not working, and the thing, and then the emotional strain, and the mental strain, and the guilt as parents. What did we do wrong? And that struck us, and it all of it hit us. And when I came through the other side, and I had transformed everything, I glued the family back together. And I say that colloquially because I didn't do it alone. God bless my wife and my children and their perseverance and everything. We all did it together. But the family was glued back together. Our finances were in order. Everything was going. And I was healthier than ever.
Oh, wow.
And again, it wasn't about weight loss. It was about my energy. Yeah. That was the key. And that was where I learned that the first time you exercise, the energy begins coming immediately. Yeah. And it's one of the biggest things I teach people. It's like, look, go for the energy, because that comes right away. Long before you'll see a physical change or even feel a physical change, feel the way down or whatever, you will feel a change in your energy, your vitality. And that's where you go. Start from there and build from that point, because that's what it was about. It was always having the energy to keep up with this little person that had come into our life and serve them and the rest of my family at the highest possible level. And I realized that it was the total package. That was what had done it. So strangely enough, when somebody said you should go get certified, get the education so you can use this incredible gift, this great story and this experience to help others, for some reason I called it N2L, because that stands for never too late. Because I was 44 and I had spiraled down to what I thought was...
You were 44 when you started over. Me too.
I told you. We're kindred spirits, my friend. Yeah, because it's never too late. Doesn't matter how old you are. Doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter. There's only one too late, and that's when it is too late. And if you don't get on with it, that's the one that's going to smack you. Until then, it's never too late. But I called it health and fitness. And it was a couple of years later that I realized, hey, Blake, you evolved. You're contradicting your own victory by calling it that, because your victory was not health and fitness. Your victory was life transformation. You found yourself and built from there.
It's like, it's interesting. There's another parallel there. I think initially it's a different story, but sort of the same. Initially, when I lost all my weight, I thought I beat obesity, and I thought that's what it was all about. And what I didn't realize was I was taking control of my life, taking charge of it. And that was the bigger piece that was more important. And it was building habits and building a sustainable life that I was able to constantly evolve. But back in the early days, it was like you. Now, I love your story, by the way. That's so. Thank you, because this is one of the first times I've got to hear sort of a beautiful story in it. Because a lot of times when you hear people, I've heard stories. You heard mine. It was because of my father's death, which, I mean, it brought me back to life. I've heard people, heart problems. You're going to die. I mean, Vance, the guy I just interviewed, he hung it up. He thought he was going to die, and a lot of times that's people's why. It's a fear. And yours was a fear in some ways. You were fearing the fact that, look, in the state I'm in right now, there's no way I'm going to be able to raise a small child. But it was kind of, at least in this, it was a beautiful thing that was happening in your life and a blessing, albeit a big stressor. I mean, the birth of a child is always a big stressor, and financial and every other impact. I love that. That's just incredible. And as I've been going through my life, the same type of thing. Early on, I thought it was about one thing. And as I transformed over the years, I realized this is bigger than me. And it's not really just weight loss. It's about living. I mean, whatever you call it, for me, it's about living life the best you can, the fullest. Because I don't know if I did a podcast the other day called "The Time Is Now," which was inspired by one of my metal friends. We kept saying during this, and it's, you only got this long, and we don't know how long that is. But if you don't take charge of it now, you don't know. I kept bringing up my clock, where I kept saying, we don't know how long this is going to keep ticking. We don't know, and that's, you realize that, and at the state you were at, you realize that window was probably a lot shorter. if you had you stayed there. And he's like, I want to see my granddaughter, graduate from high school and we got to get married and all these other things that I should be able to see. But not at 300 something pounds, I'm not going to be able to likely do it.
I had so many people that said to me, how are you? Have you got a smile on your face? We were at a hockey game. My son was playing hockey. And we had a Laura, she was, 3 months old at this point, and she was in this enormous little snowsuit bundle thing that we, put her in for hockey. And she loved it. Yeah. The louder the hockey, the better she slept. It was so weird, She's born for it. She plays now. Now she's playing hockey.
Oh, she plays hockey? How old is she now?
Yeah, she's 8. She's 8. And it's her second year. So she's great. She skates better than I do. But,
oh my gosh.
I was at the game, and a good friend of mine says to me, he says, how did you do this? What? Like, look at you. You're so happy. Are you faking it? Or I said, no, I'm not faking it. Look at this kid. What do you mean faking it? She's gorgeous. Are you kidding me? It's like, dude, you're not even 45 years old. You're a grandparent. You're like, seriously, what perspective did you put your brain into that this is happy? And I said, well, three. I put 3 perspectives in my brain. Okay. One, in a few more years, like a very short few years, my wife and I are going to be bugging our kids, where are our grandbabies? Right? So my daughter got herself out of a little nagging by getting it done early, Secondly, of all the things that my daughter could have gone out and done as a teenager, of all the news she could have brought home, of all the things I could have read about in the newspaper or whatever, the things she could have been involved in, she could have done. She brought a beautiful life into the world. My flesh and blood, right. My legacy, my lineage, what? Are you kidding me? Like, why? If you're going to get upset about that, the issue is yours. The issue is yours, really. And thirdly, and most importantly, my priority in this was, yes, okay, this child has been born. I'm only 45. Well, that means if I clean up my act, right, I might live to see great grandkids.
Exactly. Well, Blake, and I like that you took a situation that some people might look at as negative, and you said, well, listen, I can look at it any way I want. Why don't I look at it in a way that's going to serve me, serve my daughter, serve my child, the grandchild, so that it's something, people, you can make a devastation, or you can look at it and say, let's make the best of it, and look how it's serving you now. I mean, your face just shows it.
Exactly. And choosing to go that way, I tell you, that was my first lesson in taking ownership, taking control, and building positivity. Literally, when she was born, I said, okay, I can allow this to be me hitting rock bottom.
Right.
Or I can allow this to be the turning point. I can choose to handle this any way I want, as you said. How about if I choose to handle it in a way that creates a great abundance for myself and everybody, and do it that way? And suddenly I began applying that to every single aspect of my life. So when I said, I got to get in better shape to take care of this child, okay, let's do it in a way that we're doing. So every time I lifted a weight, it was, I'm going to be the super granddad. I'm going to be super granddad. And I tell you, I don't get sick and tired of the beautiful ladies telling me what a young and handsome grandpa I am. I don't tell them I'm grandpa, right? They're like, hey, you're a sexy guy. How old are you? 71. I'm 71.
Hey, look good for 70. Yeah. I heard a friend of mine make that joke too. It's hilarious. I love it. Yeah.
And but that's the thing. The mindset that I put to the one, the big thing. I said, if you apply that mindset to every single thing in your life, you're going to live an abundant life.
You apply a mindset that serves you best. I mean, that half empty, half full, whatever people want to call it, really, it's funny. I think before I used to kind of laugh or scoff at that positive mental attitude, but boy, I can tell you, when you learn to utilize it to your benefit, look what it's done. This went from a situation where potentially people could take it as financial ruin, devastation, whatever, God forbid, all kinds of things that people could take it. And you used it not only to transform your health, which was probably the biggest thing, but now you're helping other people because of what this spawned off.
Yeah. And that was the thing, because the personal trainer that I had worked with, he came to me and he said, look, I've never seen a transformation like yours. Like I've never seen, I was running way ahead of what he was, teaching me. And fortunately, he was a great reputable trainer, because he came to me and said, Blake, I'm withdrawing my services. You don't need me anymore.
You got this.
I'm thinking I'm going to hire you. But he walked up to me one day and he just said, again, congratulations. He said, I got to tell you something. You know that every single person in this gym, they've been here with you this whole time. And they're seeing minimal to no results. Mm. They've watched you physically transform yourself before their very eyes. Every single person in here has asked who you are, has asked what you've done. Oh, and by the way, thank you for all the clientele you've gotten me too, because, you know, they go, he worked with you, right? Where do I sign up? You know, but I told them, look, full disclosure up front, Blake's results are not because of me. They're because of Blake. They're what he did. And they all said, well, is he a trainer? Can I work with him? You know, and Russell said to me, Blake, that's exactly what you should be doing. You need to go get certified edgy. You need to go to do it. And when he said it to me, I went, yeah, okay, Russ, whatever. Yeah. Yeah, I will be trainer, you know.
Yeah.
By the time I'd driven home, I said, hey, you know, Blake, you need to apply that mindset again, because now the universe is calling on you to take what you went through and help other people with it. Now you're being called upon to take it to the next level and create transformation and joy in other people's lives. Is this where you're going to give up? Is this where you're going to back off? Is this where you're going to drop the abundant mindset? And I said, hell no. Hell no. I hear the calling. I hear it. Once again, I succumbed to fear and scarcity and scoffed it immediately before I realized, no, your success has come out of grabbing everything that's come at you and said, let's turn this into something awesome. Yeah. Let's make something amazing out of this. And that's when I went out and I did it. And of course, when you've got that why, when you've got the reason for doing it, my reason was to serve. My reason was to shout my story from the highest hill and say, hey, you can change it. You can fix it. Don't worry about it, you know, and to help others and whatever. All of a sudden, what do I find? I build a business out of it. The business becomes successful. And next thing we know, things like financial problems, my mental and emotional issues, my family, my unity, they all start taking care of themselves because I'm being successful at something. I have a mission and a purpose. My children are very proud of me. My wife admires what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm bringing money in. I'm just all of a sudden, all these other problems. Yeah. Exactly. You're suddenly snowballing in the other direction and building up speed. And it's all because it's not because you had a clever scheme or a great idea or whatever. People miss that, whether it's business, investment, purpose, and life, whatever it is you're trying to create. If you go in there going, I got to make a few bucks, I got to lose a few pounds, I got to make her love me, I got to, no, you need to find your true self, find your calling and your mission, get your why in place.
You found your purpose.
Live for that purpose every single day. Yeah. Everything will fall in line. Everything will fall in place.
Amazing. That's you, boy, if anybody gets it, you get it, man. And I love that. I get so inspired hearing stories like that because as we're living parallel journeys, different but parallel in some ways. It's
many.
I don't know if that's what it takes, Blake. I don't know what it is. If that's what people need. I mean, I'm curious about you because were you always this positive mental attitude type of guy? Were you always the half full kind of guy, or did you have to learn that? And if not, or if you did. And then also, how do you deal with it with people who aren't that way? Because I'm sure you run into people, who are constantly just.
I was a dark-hearted,
really
cruel cynic until I was
Why do I find it hard to believe? I really find it hard to believe.
Because I went through a complete transformation.
Really? So it just hit you.
Well, when you go to a deep, deep spiritual transformation, it literally turns you inside out. It brings the beautiful inside to the outside, and that's what happens. And so you can't even recognize me physically. Physically, I'm an embodiment of my spiritual joy and my emotional bliss, and and so you see it physically. People say, Blake, you just look like there's a smile on your face all the time. Do you smile in your sleep? Do you
I bet you do. I bet you
all the time. I probably do. I have nice dreams, so I probably do. But And that's what happened. If you met me age 30, if you met me age 20, you would go, who the hell is this guy? What a jerk. I was cynical. I was horrible. I did come from a bad family background. There was a lot of turmoil in my family. I was an unplanned and unwanted child. which of course created a huge connection between both of my grandchildren, both of whom were surprises, both were unplanned. And I told my daughter, I said, she said to me one day, how am I ever going to make up for this, Dad? And I said, make up for what? She says, all you've done, all you've sacrificed, all the time, everything you've given up to help me raise these kids. You understood, you believed, you let me go to school, get my life, do everything, and you never a problem with it, nothing. How will I ever repay you for what you've done? And I said, oh, come on. And I said, you know what, actually, hang on. There's one thing you can do for me. And she goes, what's that? And I said, you swear to me you will never, ever refer to either of these children as a mistake.
Yeah.
And she knew the story of how that I had heard that once in my childhood, and she said, "I promise, Daddy, I promise."
And Blake, to be honest, too, it saved your life. I mean, so in some ways, again, it's that how you want to look at it. You can look at it one way, or you look at it in this whole other way. It's like it's not only saved your life, but it created this whole thing now that you're all about. That's giving you a whole new purpose. I mean, what a better way to pay it forward now. You've got this life experience that you can use to relate to people. Granted, we've all got, and this is part of the reason why I want to share your stories, because we've all got different stories to share. And it's something that's just, I think if people can learn to kind of flip these things like you do, that's kind of that little key that turns. It's amazing.
And you're right. It's, if she's saying, how do I repay you? And it's like, you know what, if anything, I owe you.
You saved my life. Yeah.
Exactly. I did what any decent father would do. I did what you had to do. In a lot of ways it's nothing profound or heroic of what I did. I did what I had to do. If I hadn't done that, I'm a jerk. For what I did, I just did what you do. That's what you do. I didn't do anything amazing or profound. But what happened to me as a result of these things that happened, that was amazing and profound. I'm the one who owes thanks. I'm the one who should be and is grateful every day for what happened. I don't recognize myself because I didn't live with my true self for 40 years of my life. Wow. So for the last 13, I'm looking in the mirror and, I'm seeing my reflection now while we're recording. I can see myself and looking at I still don't recognize that guy. He's so damn happy.
Yeah. That's the amazing part of, we got to create our own happiness. We can't rely on the world or anyone else to do that for us. We got to deal with whatever circumstances we have at the moment. We can try to change some of them and some of them we can't. We can't always control the hand we're dealt in life. And again, that clock is ticking. I point back there. I think that's where my clock is, my little Popeye clock. And did you see my shirt, by the way? I got my Popeye.
I did. I was going to remark on Popeye earlier.
Yeah. Actually, this whole room, I can't see it all. It's all Popeye. But, I always bring that clock up because I think about it. And it's like, I got to make the best use of it. And why not just try to make the best of it? Yeah, there's stuff in my life that sucks that, I'm dealing with right now as we speak. And I'm making the best of it. I have problems in my own family that I'm dealing with close family members, and it sucks to be in that part of that now, but I'm also choosing to live my life in the best that I can. And because again, we don't know how long it is. And
I think that's the 21st century coach, Mike. I think you've hit on it. That's the 21st century mentor, coach, helper, guide, whatever name we're going to have for it. Is the person that's guiding you through your life, helping you, being there to support you. In the 21st century, that is somebody who says, I am not perfect. I am a work in progress. I still struggle. I am still there. I've simply reached a point where I am succeeding at a level that you want to succeed at. Mm-hmm. And therefore I can reach out to you and say, come on, pull up. Let me share my experience. Right. Let me show you the way. Let me jump you onto this path,
Yeah.
And then you may have to move on to someone else because you may accelerate to a point that you go beyond what I've already achieved and you'll need somebody, further down the road or whatever. It could be a relay race, But the key is that no longer is it the therapist who picks at your brain, or the analyst who tries to figure out what your issues are, or the psychiatrist or psychologist who tries to find answers, or the expert who knows everything. No, it is a kindred soul. It's now a kindred soul who has experienced what you're experiencing and has come through it, and will help you to come through it as well. And that's really all it is. It's just a good friend with a little bit of training, a little education, but the training is just in how to most effectively reach out to people and draw that out of them. The rest of it is you simply sharing your heartfelt experience, your discovery of your true self, and showing them how to just come through the same thing. And I think it's better than an expert, because an expert is a one-size-fits-all, and that's not going to work. You know, no matter what my experience, I can't tell someone exactly how to solve their issue. I can just say, look, I have been there, and here's some things I did, and this will help you to create your own recipe.
Exactly. I have the same thing that I feel about. I can tell people about my experiences from my point of view. I can't tell you that what I'm doing. Not everybody likes to hike like Mike, but I can't, but you've got to have your own set of needs and values that you've got to embrace, because what they are for me may not be the same as you, and the struggles aren't going to be the same. And the struggles, I'm very open. You've seen, I'm very open about my eating disorder. That's why I did the podcast the other night, Dear Food, because I sometimes feel crazy that I have this love affair with food. It's almost a sensual thing for me, and it's an obsession, but I'm open about it. And the reason I'm open about it is because I don't want people to think that you transform and life is suddenly just this rosy every single day. I will say, and I always want to emphasize, because I don't want to go down the path of making it think it sucks being here. This is 1,000. I can't even quantify how many times better. But there's reason I emphasize, and I'm sure you do too, that there are going to be these things that you're going to struggle with. That's where people give up.
Right. Exactly.
Oh my gosh, I binge eat. I see this with some of my friends. I don't want to point anybody out, but they know who they are. So let's use alcohol. And they'll go, I'm stopped drinking. I threw it out. I poured it down. And then I'll see a post later on Facebook or something. It's like, yep, I fell off the wagon. And the next thing you know, they're just on a binge again. And trust me, I can relate, because mine is food, although I've had alcohol problems too. And you said it in the beginning here. It's just, don't give up. Mm-hmm. You fall down, get up.
Yep. But you have to condition people to that fall, fail forward and get back up, fail forward, get back up.
I'm sure you do, yeah.
And one of the worst parts, if you think about, fad diets, let's face it, that's, there's an evil. But what is it? What is it about it? Why is it evil, and why does it attract? Why does it draw? Because people play the end game instead of the sustainable change. But here's the problem with the end game. And I've had people come to me and say, look, I'm done with the fad diets. I don't even know why they didn't work. I don't know. I couldn't even break down what the problem is, but I want an alternative. And I say, okay, let's start with that, because I don't want you bringing a fad diet mentality into our work together. So let's break that down. And what was that fad diet mentality? Well, here it is. You come into it with good intentions. You want to lose the weight. You have a why and a purpose. Now, maybe it's not a deep spiritual why. Maybe it's, I want to look good for that family reunion, but that's fine. Whatever motivates you, that's fine. But in the course of that, you have to discover a deeper spiritual why. Otherwise, you won't be motivated to continue. Because here's a simple fact. No matter how successful you do at that diet and at that program, no matter how great the results are, no matter what happens, as you come out the other end, you love what you see, it's great. You will not stop being hungry. You will not discover a cure for eating.
You won't stop loving cake, as I always say.
Exactly. And that's what you have to do. You have to find the deep spiritual you and say, hey, what is my relationship with cake? Is it addictive? Is it sexual? Is it sensual?
Oh, it's delicious. I could just rub it all over me. It's so good.
Like I said, that's why it's not a crazy thought. It is sexual, sure. Yeah. And you got to be honest about that relationship, because saying, well, that's it, I'll cut out cake. Yeah, that's a solution. That's a step. That's an idea. But it's not a sustainable change in your life. It's never going to last. You're going to resent giving it up. You're going to hate giving it up. You need to figure out, literally, what is your spiritual connection to cake? It sounds funny when I say it, but there's nothing funny about it. Because when you can establish your genuine spiritual connection to your weakness, to your, downfall, to whatever it is, you get control over it. You gain the control. So you realize, look, there's no way I'm giving up cake. I'm a fool if I'm even starting to think that. So what I got to figure out is what kind of relationship can I have with cake where we can both win. Cake can still have my love and we can still, enjoy a sexual play together.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't have to suffer and die because I resent giving it up, but I also resent having it. I hate the cake. I love it, but I hate it.
Oh my God! You must have listened, or maybe I said that I love you so much that I hate you.
Yeah,
and I hate myself for loving you so much.
Exactly. And the same thing too is when somebody says I'm overweight, you say, well, why? Like ask yourself why, not how did it happen? Why are you overweight? And you eventually get them into that horrible spin that they realize, oh my God, you're right. I'm depressed because I'm overweight, but I'm overweight because I'm depressed.
Yep.
And it just goes and goes and goes. And it's like, at this point, you can't go back far enough to figure out what started it. Did you eat a little too much one day and the ball started rolling? Or did you become depressed one day and
and sometimes it's trauma too, I'm sure, Yeah.
But at that point,
you might not be able to find it.
You can't find it. And when you can't find it, you really have a lack of control. So it's like, look, at this point, you've got to look to the future. The past has no answers. The present holds pain. So only your future can hold the answers. So you got to get inside you, who you are now. Because who you are now may not have been who you were when you first developed your relationship.
Another Terry is
the relationship you have now and who you are at this moment. And then decide, what does that person need to do? What do they want? And what relationship are they prepared to have with food, alcohol, money, whatever it is that's troubling you? What relationship is the real you at this moment prepared and able to have with this thing? Now you're in control. Now you're making the rules. And money and food and alcohol, everything will respect you once you have that much control. It will respect that control. It will listen to what you command and what you choose, and it will allow you to live that life.
You should have been in a clergy, huh? You can preach this stuff. It's funny. Sometimes I think I'm on fire. Wow!
Don't tell me I'm going to go evangelical on you.
I love it. Well, you know what? There is almost sort of I don't want to sound blasphemous for some people, but there is almost sort of religious sort of fanaticism you get when your eyes are finally opened about what this all is, and you almost have like that sort of preaching sort of, you don't want to preach at people, but we certainly don't want people to be put off at it. We don't want to preach at people, but we feel like, I think once you discover it and the good news, you want to share it because it's like, look, I'm filled with so much happiness and spirit filled, and fulfillment and joy about life that I want to share this with you. And, sometimes the naysayers are like, I don't want to get that crap out of my face. I don't need to hear all that. I'm happy just being miserable.
Sadly, a lot of people are. I think that the reason you've touched on the reason why spirituality is associated with religion. And that's because the true definition, and it has always been, we didn't change this. The true definition of spirituality has always been getting in touch with your true, genuine, higher self. That is what spirituality is, because that's what your spirit is. Your spirit is your true, genuine, higher self. And for a lot of people, their religious beliefs, their ideologies, and their faith are the way that they get in touch with that genuine, truer self. And they believe that their beliefs will lead them to being a higher self, if not now, in eternity or beyond. And I think that's exactly why spirituality became connected to faith and religion, because it is, for many people, the penultimate exploration of their genuine higher self.
Holy mackerel. This is some transcendental stuff from my brain at this time, and I don't think I had enough caffeine.
We can break for meditation now if you'd like.
Oh, man. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, it is a lot of that with people. It's not just this whole, I'm going to lose weight and do all these things. There's a whole mind aspect and spirit, body, mind, and spirit, all connected.
And you see a lot of things in health, fitness, money, you see practices, habits, rituals, programs, kind of like you've got your CrossFitters, you got, especially in health and fitness, and they are like religions. People will look at them religiously. And again, I think it's because when people, seek their better self, whether it's physically, in their wellness, in their, in their development, whatever, they are seeking that higher self, and it becomes a spiritual / religious experience them, and that's why they become almost religious in their reverence for this program that they found, because it's worked for them. And once something works for you, it taps that release of the higher self. So it is a spiritual, religious.
Well, I've been hearing the same thing about diets. I mean, you hear that with keto's a big thing right now, and I know people are religious fanatic about keto. And you haven't seen, women called keto queen, and there's all this keto everything now. And I'm not gonna. I'll talk about that another time, but there is sort of this, and veganism too. It's like an ism. It's like a belief in this vegan God that says we should only eat vegetable matter. And, it's interesting. There's a lot of podcasts I'm listening to that are talking about some of these extreme sort of eating patterns, I guess I hate using the word diet.
No. It should be removed from the English language. We need to get rid of that word.
We've ruined it. We've ruined it. Yeah. But it's the more people go down these paths, they find, it's done this for me, and it's gotten rid of this condition that I've had, and it's interesting as they're exploring more from a scientific standpoint. They're finding out the reasons why it works. And I heard about the other day. Maybe you've heard of this. There's a whole movement now of carnivore diet. And I was like, well, what's this thing? And I heard it on Rogan show, actually. And he was talking about this whole group of people that just eat meat. Just meat. Just meat. And I'm like, wait a second. Just meat? Yeah, just meat. And I'm like, no vegetables. No vegetables. No, just meat. And I'm like, how on earth? It's like the opposite sort of extreme of veganism. You got this whole other side, and again, like you're saying, these people they're finding what it does for them. It's like, well, I had all these other conditions. I think a lot, and these are scientists. A couple of them that I heard about on Joe Rogan's show, we talk about we're scientists and we're going down this path, but they get these camps, these religions.
And like religions and organized religions, eventually they begin to resent the other factions.
Absolutely. And there's a war going on. Oh, my God.
I'm sure carnivorism is literally the Martin Luther protesting the Catholicism of veganism. Oh, my gosh.
That's a great analogy.
The parallels are ridiculous.
I just saw a girl the other day. She got under fire. She was like this. She was a huge following she was a vegan health coach and whatever else, and I don't know her whole story, but she came under fire on the news because she got caught eating fish down in Mexico. And she had been promoting this vegan. I saw all these cutesy. She's also one of those who's extremely attractive, and so she does a lot. I think there's a part of that whole appeal too of these young ladies. I'm not putting them down. They have their purpose and they're inspiring a lot of people, but she got caught. And my first thought was, I was just like, I felt bad for her, honestly, because it's like being in the public eye is not easy, number one. But now she got caught doing this, and it's like, wow, it's like somebody who's claiming to be a whatever, religion or whatever, and you see them do something completely the opposite. And
blasphemy.
They exactly, and they crucified her too. They crucified her.
That's right. Exactly. Well, that's why I don't ever share, I believe in this, I believe in that, I believe in whatever. Wow. And you know what? And it's a great place for a coach to be, because it's not just covering my ass. Right. It's because when somebody comes to me, they want to know what's going to work for them, not what works for me. They're not interested. They like my story. They like that I've come from the place they are at. They admire my victory over the adversity they're now facing. Right. But they understand from the onset, my solution isn't their solution. Well, and they got to find their own.
Well, I don't know if you get asked about weight loss surgery. Now, obviously, as extreme as I was, and maybe, in yourself too, it's a question I've been accused of having had surgery too, which is a whole other. Listen, I have dozens of people who watch me do it, but anyway, I'm not here to prove what I did.
Well, those people that don't want to go through what you went through. Right. Want to see if they can find a way to discredit what you've done, so they don't have to do it.
Well, I mean, come on. I actually had the surgery too, so that's the funny thing. But I find that I'll lose another train of thought on this, but it's that people want to try their own reasons, for why they can't do something, and so they'll look at you and kind of say, "Oh, well, you had this or that." So it's crazy. Hey, we're coming up. Wow, we're doing real good here. We're going right on the 2 hours we thought here.
I didn't think we'd have any trouble filling 2 hours.
I didn't think so either. And we're going to have some more opportunities too if we want. I want to just a couple things I want to touch on too. What's like a typical, if you don't mind sharing, like a health routine that you do nowadays, if you don't mind sharing, folks, for yourself?
Well, yeah, sure. I have to be very careful when I share my routine because
Really?
it's not huge and time consuming. It's not awful, but when described, it sounds like I spend my whole bloody day, doing me. But it's not. A lot of these things are just a minute or two in the day. My big things are in the mornings. I start with gratitude, affirmation, and invitation.
Oh, I love it.
Now, my son, who's a big jokester, he loves making jokes, and I know he admires the person I've become. I know he loves it, but he still likes to take the mickey out of me occasionally, and say, "Oh, Snowflake Dad, how's your meditation today?" and whatever, And so, when you figure he talks to me about my morning ritual. Yeah. Because he wanted to make some changes, and I thought, "Oh, son, I'm proud of you. That usually you're poking fun at me, but you're asking about my morning ritual. Well, my morning ritual is gratitude, affirmation, and invitation." And Sean says, "Really? Your morning ritual is gay?" And I'd never thought of it before. GAI. We
got to be careful there. We don't want to offend.
No, I know. Hey, no problem. I handed it to him. Anyway, but yeah, that's how I start. And gratitude is, everybody has a different idea. I think everyone's heard of the daily gratitude or, having gratitude. That's not a new thing now. But my personal spin on it is, gratitude is not about, be happy with what you've got or, be thankful for the way it is or anything. There's a very limiting, a negative context sometimes with gratitude, that it's all about being thankful for what you got. Yeah, a little bit. But for me, it's an inventory. I consider gratitude for anybody to be an inventory, and it's got one simple purpose. When you take stock of what you have in your life, what you've accomplished, what you've achieved, what you've obtained, what you have, it allows you to not waste any time trying to obtain what you've already got. It's just simple inventory. Because the next thing is affirmation, and that is, again, not just telling yourself, remember Stuart Smalley, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, doggone, the great Al Franken. No, that's not affirmation. Affirmation is just reminding yourself that you've got the power to take the control to lead your life the way you want. That's what the affirmation is. And sometimes examples. Give yourself examples. I have the power today to get this done. Because we all wake up in the morning going, "Oh God, I have that meeting. Oh, I'm going to have to, Well, wouldn't it be smart to take just an extra minute while you're sipping your coffee and reading your paper or whatever you're doing, to just stop, close your eyes and say, I've got this. And just give yourself one or two examples of why and how. And just go back to 2 weeks ago when you had the exact same kind of meeting with the exact same kind of jerk, the exact same, right? We're doing the same stuff over and over. So go back 2 weeks to when you did it and just go, yeah, I chewed that guy up and spit him out. I'm going to take this guy too. That's what affirmation is. When you break it down, people go, okay, it's not some spiritual guru goofy stuff. No, it's just sensible personal mind control. You controlling your own mind. And the final thing is invitation. And that's where you go back to the gratitude and you say, okay, I figured out what I have in my life with my gratitude inventory. So now I can figure out what things I need to bring into my life. And those things can be shallow, selfish things if you want. You can, hey, every day, I still want that Corvette. And, that's fine. Go ahead. As long as you got a plan for getting it and, a thought about why, and how you're going to do it. If you're just going, I wish I had a Corvette, you're wasting everybody's time, But that's fine. And they can be deep, meaningful things, whatever. It's your time. Invite whatever you want into your life. Just don't waste time asking for things you've already got, right? It's like you should be sitting here inviting better health into your life, and instead you're going, I could use a few more bucks. It's like, no, you don't. You don't need any more money. You just need to manage your money better and have a better sense of what you want to do with it and get a plan. You don't need more money. You'll just waste it too. And what you really should be welcoming and inviting into your life is better health, because you're going to die before you finish spending all the money you've already got. So your priorities are wrong. So you put those three things into your day, and you're going to head out in the day empowered, prepared to go after what you need and desire, and not waste any time going after things that you don't and that you don't have the power to obtain. Because part of affirmation is also facing what you can't. That beautiful phrase, right? Give me the strength to change the things I can, the courage to accept the things I can't, the wisdom to know the difference. Part of affirmation is also saying, hey, today there's one challenge I'm going to face. I will need some help. I can't do it alone, but I know who can help me. And that's how you also then reach out for help without having to feel ashamed that you needed help or wasting someone's time asking for help.
Yeah, that was a lesson I had to learn. Yeah.
Well, asking for help it's one of the scariest things that we can do. We're prepared to face our own death. We're prepared to play games with our lives. We're not afraid of all of that somehow, but we're scared to ask for help. It's just a human quirk. And if you get that affirmation going, you'll strengthen yourself, because when you tell yourself, hey, I've got 10 things to deal with today, and 9 of them I am Superman. I'm on it. It's going to be a lot more painful to say, there's just that one thing I'm going to need a little help with. And that's how affirmation strengthens you to get out there. It just keeps you from wasting time in your day, doing things you can't, wanting things you don't need, and wasting yours and other people's time that you don't have to waste. We don't have it. Then a physical workout, whatever. I mean, it could be a walk, a hike. It's whatever I have time for. And of course, more importantly, whatever I have the inclination for. It's what I'm in the mood for.
I like the flexibility. That's awesome.
Well, yeah, because when you get up and say, well, now I have to do this. Ooh, you just said have to. And, if there's anything in your life you don't want to attach have to anything in your life.
That's true. Because
all our pain and misery in life is because I have to.
Yeah.
Right? Everything. Want to is what we desire. Have to is what we get stuck with. So you don't want to attach it to anything. The last thing you want to attach have to it to is exercise. You're already resented. Well, you already think it's evil. Now you're saying, and I have to do it, and I have to do this specific thing because John the trainer says I have to do 6 of these. Oh God, come on. What do you feel like doing? I just feel like dancing around with my kids. My kids are upstairs doing that video game where they dance. And whenever I come and join them, they laugh at Grampy, the goofy dancing guy. And we have a blast. And I burn, 10,000 calories and take more than 10,000 steps. And I don't even know or care. All I know is we had a great time. My kids are rolling around the floor laughing. Everybody's having joy. That's what I felt like today. That was my physical activity for the day. And that's it. I'm not going to the gym. I'm not, make it natural. Sit on your ass, not an option. Other than that, just get up and do what brings you joy and pleasure, and you call it a day. We should have
stood up on this, huh?
There you go. Yeah, we should. For the last 2 hours, we were kind of contradicting ourselves, but no, I've been swinging back and forth the whole time.
I see that. Well, we got the energy going here too.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of emotional and spiritual energy going on. So, and then I round my day with a relaxing meditation, because the last and worst mistake we make is we take today to bed with us, and it lays in bed with us until tomorrow slides in on the other side, and we have the menage a trois of terror. where we sleep with today and tomorrow, instead of just living in the moment of tonight, going into some pleasant dreams. And so I put on some guided meditation where a lovely lady, I'll do a plug for Angela Konkin, my spiritual coach. She speaks some beautiful meditation into my ears with her gorgeous angelic voice, and I fall asleep before she's done. And it's not offense to her. It's just she's so relaxing and peaceful. She lulls me to sleep, and then I've got it set up that it mixes right into some music.
Oh, wow.
And then the sleep timer shuts it off about a half an hour in, and that's what I go to sleep to. And that music brings peace and serenity and pleasant dreams and no thoughts of what I had to deal with today, which is gone now. So why would you think about it? And certainly no thoughts about tomorrow that I can't deal with until it arrives. And I wake up in the morning refreshed and truly ready. And then I open my planner and I get ready. Now let's get the battle plan for today together, because now we can do something about it. And that rolls right into gratitude, affirmation, invitation.
Okay.
That's 24 hours in the life. And as you can see, like I said, people hear that and go, I haven't got time for all that. It's like, my friends, that represents less than 1 hour in my day, cumulative. All of that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think it's important. It's interesting you say, I find for myself, I do actually follow a routine, but for me, because of the way my brain works, and because I don't dislike. I don't go downstairs when I lift weights, and I have to have a schedule because I'm scattered. And if I didn't have a schedule, then I'm all over the place. I go down, I do, but I love it. I love it. So for some people, they might need, you got to do these if it works for them and they don't dread it. Because I remember you said something. I remember one day I was leaving work and I heard this woman saying something about, oh, you're going to the gym. That's great. And I forgot what the woman said. She said something to her about, she says, yeah, I don't go to enjoy it. I have to do it or something like that. And I thought to myself, I was like, wow, that's just sucks. Like, why even do it? I mean, when I hike, like I'm already, halfway through the week, I'm already thinking about the mountains. I just can't wait to get out there. I do it every week, unless you're like, what's wrong? Why is Mike not out there again? But, I get out and do it because I feel that I just, something calls me out there. But when you feel like you have to do it, there's no incentive.
And I do keep a schedule because I do those things that I mentioned in my day at roughly the same time.
You have a routine. Yeah.
But I'm never tied to what I'm doing in it. I might spend more time on gratitude, less on invitation. Maybe one day I find everything's great, so a lot of gratitude, not much invitation. Don't need much today. I'm good.
That's a good way to
I might spend a little more time or less on my exercise. I might finish jumping around with the kids and still say, I want to work on my arms a little or whatever. It's that flexibility. My grandfather Basil, he always used to say to me in his lovely Manchester accent, he would talk to me about, you have to pin things down a little bit, in order to get your life going, And I remember I was a young rebellious kid and I said, hey, Basil, I like to break the rules. And he said, hey, listen. He said, I was born in Manchester. I grew up in Liverpool. I love to break the rules. But he said, listen, let me tell you something. You can't break the rules if you don't know what the hell they are.
That's true. I like
so. Unless you can't bend your schedule unless you make one. You can't.
My gosh.
A schedule. People say I don't like schedules. I don't like things to be rigid. And it's like, my schedule gives me freedom. My schedule gives me flexibility because I can get everything done in the day. If I have to shift some blocks or whatever, fine. But at the end of the day, everything's done, but it's done on my terms, when I want, how I want. If I choose to skip something, I do, but it's my choice. We are all slaves to our schedule, or we're slaves to someone else's schedule.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm not. My schedule sets me free. My schedule gives me the freedom to make the choices of what does and doesn't happen in my day. So when I go to bed every night, if I do reflect back on today, it's a reflection of success and accomplishment.
This is incredible. Blake, what sort of things would you advise to people? Any sort of tips for folks that are looking to, get started with their health? And, we're going to I want to do a plug too, but what sort of things for folks, what sort of inspires you, and what would you think, what would you give to people that want to get started with their health?
With health especially, the first thing you want to do is figure out your why. Yep. That's what you want to do. Too often, we get up, we look in the mirror, we make that decision, we go from contemplation to action, we're ready to get started, and we ask 3 pointless questions. What, how, who? And sometimes where? What gym? Right?
Yep.
We always forget. We even think when. When? I'll go in the morning, I'll go in the afternoon. We get them all in there except the important one. Why? Right. We never ask ourselves why. And if someone challenges, well, why? Well, I'm going to go get in shape. Why?
Yeah.
Well, because I gotta.
Yeah. Why?
That's the best we can come up with. We can tell them in detail who we're going to work with, who we're going to hire, where we're going to go, when we're going to do it. Oh, I got a plan. Yeah, well, guess what? Your plan isn't going to work. Your plan isn't going to sustain. It ain't going to last. Because you didn't answer the most important question, why? Because when you get to the gym with your great plan, your thing, and you lift that weight and you're going, I don't like this. Oh, my God. There's only one thing that's going to make you pick it up a second time. Why? When you remember why you're doing it. When I was on the treadmill going, why am I running on a treadmill? I couldn't walk a flight of stairs. I'm going to die. I said, wait a minute. Why am I doing this? And at first you ask it rhetorically. Why am I doing this? And then you say, don't ask it rhetorically. Ask it genuinely. Why am I doing this? Oh, yeah, because of that little girl who's currently at the gym daycare because she's only 8 months old and she's going to be walking soon, and you need to keep up with her. So, as the great Simon Pegg movie said, run, fat boy, run. And so I did. I put my Rocky music back on, or my Superman, or whatever it was I was using to motivate myself, and I got my butt moving again on that treadmill. When you don't know how you're going to do the next rep, the next set, the next motion move, or just take another step, you have to be able to say, wait a minute, why was I doing this? Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And visualize yourself where you are. That's another great first step. Right now, before you even get up off the seat,
you got to stop. You're doing it again.
While you're still sitting in the chair, maybe even have the chocolate bar in your hand.
Yep.
Stop, close your eyes, and see who you're going to be, and not just physically. Don't just pick yourself in a nice dress or putting that suit on from high school. Right. Not just physically. See who you are. See, hey, cynical, dark-hearted, nasty Blake. Close your eyes and picture this grinning moron that you are at age 53. Right, see this guy. Look at this goofy guy smiling over here. Stop and close your eyes and picture it. Now, get to work, because you got a long journey to go from who you are now to being this guy.
I wrote a speech. This is why you're killing me, man. I just did a speech called Dream It to Change It.
Yeah.
And it was exactly that. It's in order to transform, in order for me to go from 400 plus pound Mike to the Mike here today, I had to visualize it. I had to visualize what it felt like, not just the physical, but just my life. Now, I didn't know exactly where it was, but you're right. I don't think of people when you identify where you are, you don't have that vision of what it's going to be. You don't really have a path set.
But people, unfortunately, self-visualization very short. They have trouble visualizing what visualization will do. They have trouble seeing it.
It is hard. It's
imagining what it's going to do for them. Oh, I picture it. I can have it. And they read books and hear things like that, and they go, "That's crap. That's BS." And I recently was challenged with somebody. Recently, I invited them to visualize, and they said, "Oh, I don't waste my time with that. I don't believe in visualization." I said, "Oh," I said, "Okay." I said, "You went on vacation recently, didn't you?" They said, "Yes, Bora Bora." I said, "Oh, that's where they have the glass bottom boats and stuff, right?" Like, they have glass bottom hotels. I was like, "Really? Oh my God, that sounds fantastic. Did you enjoy it?" So we loved it. We're going back. It was fantastic. I said, "Great. Why did you go? Why did you go to Bora Bora? Good airfare, best deal?" And they said, No, friends of ours went. I said, and you trust those friends so much that they came home and said, Bora Bora, and you went, okay. They said, no, they showed us pictures of their vacation. I went, oh, pictures? You mean visualizations? Wow. You mean they showed you something that allowed you to say, hey, let's take Bob and Mary out of the picture and put me and John in the picture, and oh yeah, I can see myself sitting there on that beach doing that. I can see myself in that hotel. I can see. That's visualization, my dear. Are you sure you don't want to give it a try? Because it got you to Bora Bora. Maybe it can get you to your ultimate life.
Wow, dude. Wow. I can see why you do what you do, man. No, seriously, to be able to draw it back to a real life inference when you get people to think, hey, you know what? You're already doing it.
Yeah, we visualize every single day. There isn't one single thing we attain in our lives that doesn't start because of visualization. You want the most profound universal example of visualization bringing fulfillment to our life? Love at first sight.
That's awesome.
Love at first sight, the penultimate visualization. That's what it is. I see you, I see me with you. Let's make it happen.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, I tell you, this is that time. I think we're going to wrap it up for folks. But before we do, let's do one thing. Let's share. Let's give some plugs to what you do. How can folks follow you? How can people find?
Well, you can find me on Facebook by looking up Blake Miles. Just find me there. I don't have my little Facebook address and whatever. I can send you links, Mike, if you want to attach them to something.
Sure, yep.
Or N2L Transformations also has its own page. I do most of my stuff on my profile. But N2L Transformations has a little history of the company, a little story about me, and we do post stuff from time to time. Also, I'm on Twitter at N2L Coach, and on Instagram at N2L_UFC. UFC stands for Ultimate Fulfillment Coaching, which was my old company. One of my other old company names.
Not the fighting company, right?
No, it's not, yeah, that's why I walked away from it.
I got you.
The first time I abbreviated it, I went, well, N2L is really exciting, but UFC is going to confuse people.
That's right. That's right. You get Joe Rogan calling
I'll coach you to success, or I'll beat the crap out of you. One of the two.
Exactly. That's awesome.
And if you want to visit my website, www.n2lblake.com.
Great.
Couldn't be easier. And I think that's about all I have at the moment. I'm an old guy, so I got email.
No, listen.
And a website.
I think we got all the ways. You guys can come to me if you want to find him too. We'll track him down. We'll get up there.
Mike knows where I am.
I know where he is. That's right. And I got to get up there too, guys. Yeah. I hope you've enjoyed everything that Blake shared with. I've had a great time. I think you and I could just go on and on here, and
I think we have, but
we have gone and on and on. But guys, if you folks have any questions, feel free to comment. You'll see when I post this out. If you got any questions for us, and who knows, you might see some more collaboration with me and Blake in the near future. Blake, thank you so much, dude. It was so awesome. I was really looking forward. That's why when you said, hey, I've got this available, let's just do it. Let's just do it. And I'm so glad.
I thought, as Mike is as enthused as I am, his message comes back going, how about tonight, Blake? I said, yeah, I guess he is.
I told Terry, I was like, I got Blake tonight. And I'm like, so I was really excited.
It's been my absolute pleasure, Mike. It's once again, Likewise. This is the culmination of our bizarre and incredible friendship.
You never know.
And I'll tell you, there's my last tip for you in everything in life, guys. When you see a moment and you think, should I, shouldn't I? Do it. If it's not going to hurt you, do it. Because one day, Hike with Mike popped up in the corner of my screen, and I went, what the hell is Hike with Mike? I like the name, but what is that? Click, and the rest is history.
Oh my
Take the chances. Make the move. Get on with life.
I love it, Blake. Hey, what does Hike Mike would always say? Stay awesome. You inspire me. I do say that too. I also say stay awesome.
Stay awesome. You always do. I remember the first time I sent that to you, and I went, oops, I stole his thing.
Hey, listen, I have no copyright to it, so certainly I want to hear people say it, and I love it. All right, man. Hey, stick around right after this, and we'll get this going.
I will. Thank you, Mike. You are a rock star.
Thanks. All right, hang on here. I'll talk to you.